This is Vincent Crowley of Acheron, and I'm at the Tampa Morgue.
What's up? This is Tony, and you're listening to the Tampa Morgue, Season 3, Episode 108. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host from his studio deep in the bowels of Tampa Bay, Florida, Mr. Ed Webb. What's up, Webb?
Mr. Anderson, what's going on, brother?
Just getting ready for October, man. You know, we got a lot of guests we're working on, just trying to figure out the schedule and stuff. But hey, it'll be our third October on the show.
Yeah, man. Halloween, our favorite time of year.
And actually, you figure 3 years, well, 3 Halloweens, I'll say we've been doing this. And actually, the guest we have tonight, He was on here when we first started, man. We opened up the show with Acheron-Thou Art Lord from the Rites of the Black Mass record that came out in 1992. We played the 2025 remaster. We have Vincent Crowley, who was on episode number 6.
Fucking nuts. And I remember that day because,
How could you forget?
Prior to our craftiness that we have today, I remember your internet went out and we were
lost power that day.
We were a half hour into the interview. I've known that guy for, man. I was telling you yesterday, driving through people's storage. For those who don't know, that is the infamous practice spot of all the death metals who's who in Tampa. I can remember driving through there, and of course there's Morbid Angel, and driving by, and there's Mike Browning with his triple kick drum kit with the 666 on it. Practicing
Sandoval
with
there
Acheron.
24 hours a day.
Oh my gosh, he would be there. And that was pre air conditioning in those units.
Yeah.
I mean, we had air conditioning. Like, I remember, because obviously we were younger, I had a good job. So I remember buying cheap, or somebody might even given it to me, an old AC unit, and we cut a hole out of the board that they kind of framed out the inside of these units with, and you could roll the other. We had 2 doors, so you could roll the other one up so that the air would go out, so it would vent. And our units were always cold, but I can remember seeing David, Vincent, and Trey standing outside with Richard with 50-foot cords because they were fucking dying. In that they had a triple unit, so they had 3, so 10 by 10, so they had a 30 by 30 or 30 by whatever it was. Yeah, it was huge. And I was like, but they were dying because in the summer here, as you know, it gets, and put yourself in one of those people's storage, and what do you have? A fucking cooking oven.
Oh, it's brutal,
It's
man.
just a cooking oven, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was those days, and I can see in Vince in the early days, the Metal Fest that he played. I played a bunch of different shows with Acheron over the years, so yeah. Hung out with him
a good
at the Metal Fest.
conversation, man. And I'm sure we're going to talk about people's storage again. I know and that's one thing, anybody who listens to our show knows how we usually do the Tampa Morgue. It's going to be a little different tonight. We're going to have a lot of shit to talk about with Vince, but usually we go through the whole discography and stuff. But we've had Vince on episode 6 and went through a lot of his history.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about, obviously Acheron coming back. The Vincent Crowley Band, of course, we'll talk about a little bit. Some of the old stuff, from Ed's past with Vince, just a bunch of stuff, man. We're glad to have him on the show tonight. We've been, it's funny you mentioned the storage units, how it's changed, Ed. You think we've been practicing, me and you, for the last probably, 18, 19 years. We're practicing at Circle Studios in St. Petersburg, Florida. And actually, we're practicing most of the time in the Morbid Angel room, they call it, because that's where now Morbid Angel practices before they go touring and stuff like that. Anybody who's been in that room that's listening to this show, you have a bunch of Morbid Angel artifacts hanging up and stuff. But this is the room where they jam now before they head out. But it's totally air conditioned, totally different experience than back then. It's times are changing. But
yeah, so Circle reminds me of the old school audio lab.
Yeah, I used to practice there too.
And you had your, the only difference was you paid by the month there, and you had your own room. Where here you
Cannibal practiced in there. If you remember Diabolic, obviously Yeah.
Brutality. That's where I practiced with Brutality.
Yeah, and Audio Lab. And we'll talk about Audio Lab tonight too, because I know Vincent did some recording over there also. So like I said, we opened up the show with Acheron-Thou Art Lord. And last week, everybody didn't check it out. We had Daniel Avenger on from Nocturnal, and Black Priest of Satan, Angel of Damnation, and a bunch of other bands. I got to say, Ed, every week, man, we've been having some great guests. We had Sergeant Salston from Deathhammer from Norway. We had Infernal and an Odin from Disaster. Nameless Void of Negative Plane was on here, and a shitload of other ones, which I'll talk about when I go through the guests we've had in the past and stuff like that. But we also have some upcoming guests. Next week, we have Black Venom of the band Flame from Finland. He was also in Urn. We had Yarno on here from Urn months ago. Dorier, Demon's Gate. He'll be joining us next week. And then we have Mangus from Norway's Aberration, which is a fucking killer death metal band. It's funny, Ed, the first year we didn't have many Norway bands on. I don't think we had any. And since then, we've had Heimland on, we had Knife on from Norway. So we'll have Mangus on from Aberration. That'll be in 2 weeks. We have some other stuff too that I just don't want to announce until we get it confirmed. But me and Ed are always working on getting the guests all set up. We just don't want to jinx ourselves because very rarely does it happen where it doesn't work out how we think it's going to, but you never know.
Well, out of 108, I think it's only been 2.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, 2 guests that.
So that's a pretty good percentage. I would take that if I was a betting man.
And one of them made it up. It was a total misbooking and we figured it out. But and I want to thank Dustin Hardman too, man, for helping us out with getting Vincent set up tonight. So definitely want to give him a thanks. Ed knows him too. He's a regular at the Tampa Bay shows. We have a busy show tonight. It's up to you, Ed, but let's run the ad. And then we'll go over the releases, the musicians who passed away. Then
shows.
We'll go over some shows, and then we'll get Vincent Crowley on here.
Let's do it.
Cool. Episode 108 is about to begin, and we'll start it out with the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal promo with Dave Allison. We'll be back after this promo with shows, musicians who passed away, and releases of the week.
What's up, Tampa Morgue listeners? This is Death Metal Dave from the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal. And I'd like to ask you to join us on February the 7th at Magnanimous Brewery, Seminole Heights, where we're going to have a killer display of Florida metal history. Backdrops, guitars, drums, clothing, you name it, we're going to have it. And it's pretty freaking cool, man. Come out and support the metal and drink our Tampa Bay Museum of Metal beer. And always listen to Tampa Morgue with Tony and Ed. It's just Death Metal Dave. In your face.
That was Dave Allison, a.k.a. Death Metal Dave from the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal. And as I've been telling you for the last few weeks, for more info on the event, you can visit www.tampabaymuseumofmetal.com. There you will find all the Tampa Bay and Florida metal history you can ask for. Dates back to 1982 and takes you to the current day. Check out the page and, of course, check out the event in February. Me and Ed will be hanging out there. It should be a great time. And while I'm at it, let me promote this show. Anybody who's a new listener, we appreciate you checking out The Morgue. After you get done listening to this episode, you can go back. This is episode 108. There's 107 previous episodes that you'll find deep interviews with bands like Morbid Saint. We've had Dave from More to Scold on the show, Lee Payne from Club and Hoof, Gene from Angel Corpse and Perdition Temple, Henry from God Dethroned, the guys from Witch Trap out of Columbia, Tony Dolan from Venom, John Walker from Cancer, Ritual Butcher of Finland's Arc Goat, Jeff Manis of Venom. That's a 5-hour episode. Another long episode, probably around 4 or 5 hours. We had King Fally of Deceased on the show. Eric from Goat Semen out of Peru. Dovidus from Lithuanian's Black Death Metal band Luctus and Crypts of Despair. Terry Butler from Obituary, Death, Massacre, and Denial Fiend was on the show a few weeks ago. There you will find a shitload of Florida metal history in that interview. Luciferian Rites out of Mexico. We had Nige Rocket from Onslaught was on the show. Paul Speckman from Master. Harry Kuokinen from Hooded Menace and Hail Conjurer. Morgul out of Finland was on the show. Dawn of the Dead from Nunslaughter. Alessio from Violenter and Hobbs Angel of Death. Adam of Cardiac Arrest, Lord Sabathan from Morbid Death, Slaughter Messiah and Enthroned. We had Revik from Mordant Red on the show, Bobby G from Overkill, Glenn Destructor from Australia's Destructor on the show, Udo from Accept. We had the Rods. We had Kyle Thomas from X-Order, Trouble, and Floodgate on the show, Luisma from Hemorrhage. We had Martin Missy from Protector, Ob from Lucifericon and Destroyer 666. Noe Shaw from King Diamond and Merciful Fate. You can go back. We have shot some actors on the show. We had David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown in all the Terrifier films. He was on here. We had Alan Howarth, who did music for Halloween, Gremlins. He was on here. So, there's definitely a lot of back issues you can go listen to, 107 of them. So anybody who wants to contact us, feel free to contact us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com. You can hear us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We also put the audio up on YouTube. We don't do any video. So as I always tell you guys, it's kind of just for last resort for people who do not have streaming platforms. But you can check us out there. And for the most up-to-date information, I definitely recommend visiting the Instagram page. That's where we usually put the upcoming guests, basically a lot of the information. You can contact us through there. We also have a Facebook page. We do put the information up there. We're not very active on Facebook, but we try to keep it updated for the people who pay attention to that. So yeah, so we definitely appreciate everybody who's checking out the show, old or new. Appreciate the old listeners for having to listen to that spiel. But that's what we have to do here at the Tampa Morgue. Next, I'm going to go over releases, and then I'm going to go over the musicians who passed away. So I had some releases sent to me, so I'm going to read those. We do this every week. Some of the underground releases I'm going to read. So I'm going to start in Poland with a band called Mystikon. It's a Polish death black metal band. Bison is the name of this record. It's an independent release. The band formed in 2015, originally by members of Hate Invader and Lux Occulta. But they formed in 2015. The first release was the Into the Dark EP in 2019. This will be the band's second full length. This release will feature 6 tracks, including a cover of Lux Occulta's Creation. This came out on August 23rd. Throne of Desolation. It's a French black metal band. The name of this was going to be Eternal Dust. It's coming out on MFT Records out of France. Band formed in 2008, put out an EP in 2023 and 2 singles in 2024. Eternal Dust would be the band's debut full length, and Eternal Dust came out on August 24th. From the Crypt, death metal band out of the Netherlands. This one's called Born in the Grave, coming out on Raw Skull Records out of the Netherlands. Band formed in 2022, put out 3-song demo in 2022. This would be the band's first full length, and it'll be available on September 26th. Infest, the Serbian death thrash metal band, are putting out an album called Ambassadors of Aggression that's coming out on Violent Creek Records out of Germany. Infest formed in 2002. First release was a demo in 2003 titled Inquisition. They put out a debut full length in 2007 called Anger Will Remain. This will be the band's 7th full length. It's available September 26th also. Christ Agony, a black metal band out of Poland, is putting out an album called Anthems on Deformathing Productions. Christ Agony formed in 1990 and also put out their first release, a demo in 1990 titled Sacro Nocturne. Christ Agony has put out 4 demos, 3 EPs, and this will be the band's 9th full length. Anthems will be available September 26th. Last Wretch, Canadian death metal band. Abject Cruelty is the name of this one. Coming out on Time to Kill Records out of Italy. Last Wretch formed in 2021, put out a self-titled demo in 2021. The band's first full length came out in 2022 titled Sadism and Severed Heads on CDN Records. And this band features 2 former members of the band, Mortuary Slab out of Ontario. This one's going to be available September 28th on Time to Kill Records. Spreader, the Swedish death metal band, is releasing an album called As Gods Devour that's coming out on Extreme Music out of Spain. Rib Spreader formed in 2003. First release was the Bolted to the Cross full length in 2004. As Gods Devour will be Rib Spreader's 11th full length. This one has 9 tracks and will be available September 30th. And Blood and Brutality are releasing an EP titled Wrath Upon. It's an independent release. They're a death thrash metal band from Alabama. Blood and Brutality formed in 2008. Their debut release was a full length in 2009 titled Unrestrained Aggression. They've released 3 full lengths in total, and this will be the band's 6th EP, counting Wrath Upon. Members past and present of Passion of Death, Mothface, and Brutal Carnage. And the Wrath Upon EP will be available October 1st. And that's what I have for releases. And what we'll do now is we're going to mention the musicians who pass away. It's something that we do on every episode, paying respect to those that have been lost in the community or the underground. And we're going to start out with Giuliani Alanda. He was a Guatemalan drummer for the band Eterno Impeller. And also Gerard Nemchek, a Polish drummer who played with the bands Holy Death, Death Sea, Gladiator, Hexam, Mortar, Schismatic, Melodic Immortality, Remission, and Atrocious Filth. He passed away from cancer at the age of 57. And next we have Guy de Grave, who was a Belgian singer back in the 80s for a band called Target. He passed away at the age of 63 years old. And then next, Paweł Szostak, a Polish drummer, played in the band called Heart Attack. Paweł was 49 years old. Then we have the Nicaraguan bassist Hernan Gongora. He was for the bands Mission and Winsgo. He died 33 years old in a motorcycle accident. And the next one we want to mention is one of our listeners, actually, who passed away this week. And we actually got a message from Jesse, who is another one of our listeners. And we're going to mention Chuck Cruz, the bassist vocalist for a band called Nefarion, which was a death metal band out of Jacksonville. The band actually started in Lake City, Florida, and then relocated to Jacksonville to be closer to venues and the scene. They put out a demo titled Dominion that came out in 1994 that had 6 tracks. It was self-released on tape. And they also put out a demo titled Self-Immolation of Demonic Positioning that was released also in 1996. On that demo, you had Jason Todd doing vocals and guitars, Gabe Caron doing drums, and Chuck Cruz doing bass and vocals. It was recorded at their warehouse, I believe, in 1996. Chuck passed away unexpectedly. They had a memorial service for him this week. And we want to do something that, we have never done on this show, but we're actually going to play a track from Nefarion before we, get Vincent Crowley on and stuff. Chuck outside of Nefarion was also a skilled skateboarder and passed away unexpectedly at 49. He was a listener of this show. We're actually going to pay some respect to Chuck, and we're going to play a track from the 1996 demo. Name of the demo was Self-Immolation of Demonic Positioning. We're going to play the track Cursed Existence, and this is from the band Nefarion from Jacksonville, Florida. R.I.P. Chuck. We'll miss you at the morgue, and thanks for listening, of course. And we'll be back with shows after this track from Nefarion. This is Cursed Existence from 1996.
And that was Nefarion from Jacksonville, Florida. Cursed Existence on the 1996 demo Self-Immolation of Demonic Positioning. And rest in peace, Chuck Cruz, bassist vocalist. Yeah, man. It sucks to lose a listener, brother.
Both of us had read what was sent to us about the situation, and man, it really,
Listen, man.
Makes you think.
We can pretend that we're all hard ass and tough guys, but when I read that, I was very, it got me emotional for a minute because it's like, I understand. It would be like if and we've listened to shows where you found out somebody passed away on the show, you know? Um, it sucks.
49 is just too young, especially when you start getting like the ages we're at, you know that, it's like, damn,
Yeah.
49.
Yeah, man. I'm lucky every day I open my eyes, man. You know, I get to, and I'm glad I got to see my kids grow up. That was my thing is I wouldn't want to leave little kids without a father, you know what I mean? Because who knows the next jackass your wife finds.
And you're correct because as I always say to you off the record when we're just hanging out or talking, for me, when we're younger, I know myself, man, I was in bands. I just, you live for the moment, right? Like you don't ever plan on seeing 30 or whatever, or, 27, whatever people say. And that is kind of the mindset at one time. The problem is that when you start having children, like I have obviously a youngster, two youngsters. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Life is a lot different then, man, and your mindset is much different. So, yeah, and thanks to Jesse for, who's another one of our listeners who actually was really good friends with Chuck and wrote us, man. We really appreciate that. And like I said, we'll pretty much answer anybody who gets a hold of us. I mean, um, we do appreciate everybody who listens and, yeah, you can always message us but I thought that was cool, man, and definitely wanted to pay some respect. We've actually never played a song for somebody that, that passed away like that. But I just thought it was, not only is it another Florida guy, we're part of the Florida Circle, me and Ed for many years, but, one of
It's
our
a fan
one
of
of
the
our
show.
listeners. Yeah, so, yeah, but
Yep, for sure.
that was Nefarion, like Ed said, and, Ed, we have a busy show tonight. We know Vincent, and we know how it's gonna go. We're gonna be a lot of talking, a lot of bullshit, and it's,
I
gonna be
love it
like a
because
hangout.
when we talk, we're like, yeah, it'll probably be, we had him on before, it'll probably be about an hour. And I can promise you, knowing when you know somebody like Terry Butler, it just goes and it
Yeah.
goes and
It's
it
a
goes.
hangout,
And we do not put a time limit on these shows, as people know. Just go listen to the Jeff Mantis show or King
Yeah.
Fowley. When it
Snowy
takes on
Shaw was another one, yeah,
I
long.
mean, when it takes on a mind of its own, man, when you're in a flow with somebody having a great conversation, why would you shut that down? You know what I mean? For time restraints. So,
Yeah. A a
but
and
yeah,
also tonight, we're gonna play a lot of stuff from the Rites of the Black Mass record because that's what kind of just so everybody knows, usually we have more variety of like, we're gonna play some Vincent Crowley stuff and, we're gonna play some other Acheron stuff, but Ed, we are gonna kind of focus on that because they put the remaster out and, Vincent's obviously bringing Acheron back and stuff, so it
well,
is
that was
gonna
the reason we're
kind of
having
the
him on
focus.
is
Yeah.
when we talked to him, what, episode 6, right?
Yeah, episode
So
6.
almost 3 years ago. Crazy.
September, I
Uh,
wanna say it was like September 3rd, 2003.
23.
Was it 23 or
Yeah,
23? Yeah, I keep on
that's
yeah, September.
2003.
We're not that
That
we
would
haven't been
be
around that long.
23 years ago, brother. We didn't have this technology back then.
If we only have 108 episodes
Oh
from
my God.
2003, we got a fucking problem around
Yeah,
here.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think because then he said no Acheron. Acheron's done, it's dead. And again, I've said it before, when the calling is there for something, like just for instance, if there was somebody screaming, bring Flesh Reaper back, you know, you kind of think about it, right? Obviously, Flesh Reaper is not Acheron, but I was throwing out something me and you have done that we're not doing anymore. But if there was a calling for something like that, you would think, because I've had people ask me about Destined to Ruin. Why don't you do that band? Blah, blah, blah. And you know my reasonings. But if there was a big enough scream for it, maybe I would consider it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess you can never say never is my thing because you
No,
just don't know.
yeah, I mean, it's 100% like that because how many bands these days do we see that come back? I mean, that's pretty much because at the end of the day, there's a demand for it,
Well,
and
there was a
I'm
bunch of
sure
bands. Sacred Reich was one of those bands. Remember, they were done for 10 years, didn't play shit. And then
yeah.
all of a sudden, they come back, they play a couple of festivals, they see that the desire's huge. They put out a record, it goes good. They put out another record, and and that's
Look at
usually
Ozzy,
how.
dude, No More Tours. What was that, 91 No More Tears? And he
Yeah,
was doing the No More Tours. It's, it's you just and I'm glad Ozzy did. It was way too young for Ozzy to go away. I mean, even now it's weird that there's no more Ozzy Osbourne, you know? I mean, of course he'll live forever through the music and the records, but it's just always sometimes even when I wake up and think about it, I'm like, "Man, Ozzy's gone," you know?
Yeah. Lemmy's
So,
gone. I
yeah,
mean, we saw
Lemmy's
Lemmy.
gone.
When we saw Lemmy, we knew right away. We're like, this dude's not looking good, man. But I will tell you, that motherfucker trooped right through it. Like he
Yeah,
didn't
because
look
I
like,
think we saw him the 3rd to last American show or maybe the 2nd to last American show,
yep.
which
And
Ed
then
got
it
us
was
tickets
what?
for.
It was like a month later. Because I think we saw him in October and he died what, December? So 2
That's
months.
crazy. Ah.
Yep. You don't know. You just
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
I mean, I think with Vincent, I understand, and I'm sure when Vincent was doing all the interviews for Vincent Crowley Band, I'm sure you're always getting the questions, right? Even though, you know, it's gonna people Acheron is a staple, and I mean, which we'll talk to him about tonight. I mean, you know, it's and fucking great bands, man. I mean, like I always say with not a bad
That's what I
record.
knew him from.
Yeah.
Nocturnus and Acheron. That's what I grew up with him being in, were those two bands right there. Was I remember the early days of Nocturnus, which he, propelled him to do Acheron. So I remember Vince with hair.
Yeah, yeah, if you look at the demo, man, the
I
Rites
remember
demo, there's a
Vince
photo,
with
he got
hair.
the
So
hair on there, the
yeah,
black.
man.
Yeah.
So, I go way back with that dude.
And there's gonna be a lot of, you know, for anybody who's listening, who's an old school Tampa person, I mean, you're gonna hear about the Sunset Club, you're gonna hear about the Volley Club, you're gonna hear about all these places, that Ruby's, you're gonna hear about all these things, and to the Tampa people, and Ed especially growing up, you know, like I said, when I went to Tampa, it was the mid-90s. Um, you know, you're gonna hear about stuff pre-mid-90s. It's gonna be a, you know, because you figure Vincent was in Nocturnus 87 to 88, you know, so you're going to that period. I mean, it's gonna be cool, man. We look forward to having him on. I have a lot of respect for the dude. He was our
Our
second
show's a
guest
lot
on the
better too.
show.
Our
Yeah,
show is a
things have
hell of a lot
changed.
better
Yeah, the first
since
time
we
he
had
came on,
him.
we had a lot of technical problems.
Dude, we were holding fucking phones up to the microphone to play
Yeah, yeah.
stuff, captions and shit.
I think we
I
were
don't even.
playing, like, Ave Satanas on my cell phone next to the I think we, like, lower the volume, like, 40 seconds in, like, you know, like, it's actually, like, some professional fucking thing we're
Yeah,
doing.
it was
Yeah,
fucking. It was
but
definitely fun.
yeah, so we're definitely looking forward to having Vincent on. Guy was and, you know, very says whatever he wants, you know, we're expecting that, like, he doesn't hold back, you know,
We don't
and
censor
that's the great
anybody.
thing about the show is we can have conversations and even no matter what it is, like, we respect the conversation, and whether people agree or not, man, you know, Vincent doesn't give a shit, so you're gonna probably hear some of that tonight, so I'm sure it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna definitely talk about the rights of the Black Mass record, the recording process, all the little things about it, but, there's a lot of stuff to talk to him about, so he'll be on here in a couple minutes because I say we, mention a
Let's
few shows we have and then
do
get
it.
him on.
Let's do it. Let's break this
Cool,
shit
man.
down. You got the
Uh,
shows, right?
yeah, I only have 2 I'm gonna mention. I was looking,
You
I
have
didn't
the
see
same
much.
two. You have the two that I saw. So
Yeah, and one's not till December, but it's a bunch of, you know, but it's a cool,
it's a good show. It's our buddy. So gotta
yeah, what
mention
is
him.
it? 35 years since Cause of Death, right? I think this is, which is insane.
I remember when I bought that brand new at Aces Records at the flea market. That's fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure there's gonna be some Aces talk tonight too.
yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like the flea market was probably around longer than the self store that was on Fowler. So to think that, because they were only open on the weekends, and every Sunday I would go. I don't know why I said Sunday, but that was the day. And we would go and we would get there right when they fucking opened. And just, it was a thing, man. It was just a thing you did.
And the Aces sign hangs up in the brass mug still to
Yep.
this day, which I believe, if I'm correct, Digger went when they were closing down the store, took a ladder and pulled it down. I believe, and I could be wrong. Anybody that knows Digger, and I believe that's the story. If I'm
Maybe.
cor
I wouldn't
I
be
could be wrong.
surprised.
Yeah, so, you know, it's gonna be a lot of Florida talk tonight and, a lot of Acheron talk and Vincent Crowley talk. It's gonna be a good show.
Speaking
So,
of Florida, here's some shows for you.
yeah, Florida Swamp Tour, Obituary, Intoxicated, Castrator, and Cold Steel. There are gonna be December dates. Ed, do you have so what I didn't get was I have the dates, but I didn't pull the venues. You don't happen to have that in front of you, do you?
I don't, but I
One
mean,
second here, I
obviously
can
we
do
know
this.
the brass mug
Yeah,
is
one second.
definitely the one for sure. Um, I know they're playing 4 Florida dates.
I think it's 6 Florida dates.
6? Is it?
I
Wow.
believe so.
Okay.
Let me see here. I'm gonna pull. I think I have. I mean, this is
Yep,
what.
it is. I got it.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So 12/5 is Club LA in Destin, Florida. 12/6 is in Jacksonville and Albatross. 12/7 at the Conduit in Orlando. 12 at Gramps in Miami. 12/13 and 12/14, 2 days at the Brass Mug. So yeah, all in December.
Which they've done before those 2 dates at the Brass Mug. They played what, 2 different. I think they played Cause and they played Slowly We Rot and some other stuff one night.
Yep. And Intoxicated, Castrator, and Cold Steel are on. It looks like all the shows. So yeah, that'll be killer. And they're also doing that tour over in Europe with Testament and Destruction. So
I saw some show was sold out already. I'm sure there's several.
I saw a bunch of them were sold out. I was like, but what'd you expect? I mean, Testament, Obituary, Destruction, and if you dig them, Nervosa. You know, they're becoming big. You know.
Yes, I mean it's Obituary always packed. I mean that's a band. I mean we've played with Obituary a lot. We've been fortunate where they've hooked us up. Always killer shows, man, and killer guys. One more show, and then we're going to get to Vincent Crowley here. And this one's closer. This is next month on the 4th at the Orpheum, right? The Carnival of Death tour. So that will be, let me see here, October 4th, and it's Vader, Cataclysm, Malevolent Creation, and Skeletal Remains. We had Jesse Jolly and Ronnie Palmer on the show from Malevolent Creation a couple months, actually probably like 5 months ago now, which is maybe even longer. I was looking the other day, Ed, and we have had guests for the last like 40 episodes. I think it was. That's going to be at the Orpheum. Ed will probably be out at that, but I haven't seen Vader in a long time, man, so it should be a killer show.
There is one more show I'll mention if you're into it, The Kings of Thrash with Dave Ellison. That's at the Brass Mug on October 11th. And of course, by the time this comes out, you'll miss it, but Zetro is playing tonight, Friday, at the Brass Mug. So you probably won't hear that, but you know, if you want to hear some Exodus and whatever he does, he'll be at the Brass Mug tonight, the 26th.
Yeah, what was you said the ticket prices for that was actually was pretty good, right?
Yeah, I think it was like $20 or something like that for both shows. Even the Kings of Thrash, I think they were like $20 or $24, which was surprising because the $60 for the Dark Angel show, that just that just was fucking. I get it, but come on, man, $60, like it's a bit extreme
It's
these
a new
days.
world, man. The $5 shows are pretty much extinct now.
If I'm buying a $60 show ticket and I'm going to the amphitheater, okay, because you're going to see a fucking concert, you know. But $60 for the Orpheum, come on, man. We got to be a little more real. But that, I guess, you know. But you're in Europe, so they don't do that over there. They don't do that. They don't do that in Europe. You know what I mean? So that's the difference between here and there. But I get it. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on it. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people who probably won't go because $60. You know, for me, I'd want to take Bryce. Now I'm dropping $120. You know, so can't just it gets a bit expensive to do that shit now.
2025.
Welcome in. Come on in.
Welcome.
Inflation is nothing.
Everything's going to be great. Let's get Vincent Crowley on here. Yes.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Yes. This is we're going to play Fuck the Ways of Christ from the Anti-God, Antichrist record that came out in 1996 on Moribund Records. And we'll be back with Vincent Crowley after this track. This is Acheron with Fuck the Ways of Christ. Be back on the morgue after this track.
Enough.
that was Acheron with Fuck the Ways of Christ. And we are joined by Mr. Vincent Crowley. Welcome back to the morgue, dude. 753 days since your last time on the show.
Oh, right on. And how you guys doing, man?
Good, good. Ed?
Hey,
Good. I've known Mr. Crowley for a long time.
We're going to talk about all that tonight, man. You were on here episode 6, and it was a total shit show. I went back and listened to a little bit of that, Vincent, and man, it was kind of like, you remember how you go back and listen to like Howard Stern radio back in the day, and like it sounded like a college room of just chaos? I got to say, first of all, thank you back then for coming on. You're one of the first guests we had. I think you were the second. We had Pat from Hellwitch first on the show. You were the second guy to say yes. And yeah, man, dude, how's life treating you, man?
it's doing good, man, and you know, has its ups and downs. It's been a crazy fucking year, and oh, congratulations! I mean, since our interview, you guys did like 50,000 fucking other interviews, and names getting out there. It's good to see you guys thriving and doing great, man. It it just shows that us old meddlers are still alive and fucking, the people still want to hear about it.
Me and Ed were kind of bummed. We had been invited last year to play Swarmfest over in Tampa. We said yes. And we were fucking really excited because the Vincent Crowley Band was on the show. But last minute, that didn't happen, man. So I don't know what you want to share. Like I always tell everybody who comes on the show, you tell us what you want. You don't have to tell us what you don't want. But what was the reason you guys didn't play Swarmfest in November?
Well, we really wanted to play. You know, Nick was cool as fuck, and he's a cool guy. And the only problem is, we were one of the last bands to get kind of added, and just the budget to get down there and everything, and we're kind of past those days of losing money. If you break even, you break even. But that was going to be a long trip from Ohio, and travel time and missing work and stuff. So that's the only reason we didn't do it.
We're going to talk about the whole Acheron thing because the last episode you had you on years ago, Acheron was a done thing. Now it's back, which we'll talk about. But speaking of Acheron, you guys played Steelfest with Take, Sargeist, and Piety this year, Sarcophago. I mean, the list goes on. So first of all, was that your first time playing Steelfest? And how was that experience?
Yeah, that was the first time we played Steelfest. That was the first time we played Finland, amazing experience. It was a travel nightmare, but yeah, everything turned out really great for, playing wise. The crowd was great. Meeting a lot of fucking people, getting to see Sarcophago. That was great. And that's really, unfortunately, with all the problems we had with travel, that's the only band I got to see the whole show. But yeah, people there were great. They really hold a very professional fest there, and I have nothing but good things to say about it.
What is your favorite? Yeah, you've been around for a while, man. What is your favorite fest that you've played?
That's probably Steelfest. I mean, it was I mean, you go there and like in the US, sometimes it looks like, you got people, wear the band shirts, or someone that maybe just came straight from work, and it's just a bunch of people hanging out seeing a show. Man, you go that, all you see is fucking leather, fucking spikes, fucking, it they're there for fucking war, and that was a really cool experience. And just seeing everybody getting together. There was no, you know, crybaby shit about this band's playing or that band's playing, and everybody got along. And I didn't experience any egos with people I bumped into or bands, and yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Was there any guys you met? Because I know there was like the roster there is killer, man. This will actually be my first Steel Fest this year going, the one coming up. Was there anybody? Did you run into like Werewolf from Satanic War Master? Any of those guys? Like, was there anybody that was kind of a highlight that you got to actually talk to?
Yeah, Satanic War Master, he actually came up to me and we started talking, and he was saying how much of an Acheron fan he was, and I was like, wow. And and periodically bands would bump into, and I didn't necessarily know even who they were. And they're like, Acheron really inspired us and shit. And it kind of made me like go, what? These are like big bands, and but it was really cool to hear from like bands that have been around but not as long as us, and coming up and no egos and being real cool.
You guys also this year played, you guys played that free show at No Class too, right? With Nunslaughter, Deceased?
Yeah, we did that with Morton Red, Satanas, a band called Church. I did both bands. We did Acheron and the Vincent Crowley Band. Um, that's a story in itself, because I had talked to a promoter, and he was all down for it. We had a venue, everything was great. And the next day he calls me with this really pussified, shaky voice going, Vincent, I'm not gonna be able to do the show. And I was like, what happened in one day, He's like, well, we got a call, and there's some talk about you, and you have a band called Infidel Reich, and we heard this and that. And I was like, okay, what about it? And then, of course, the N word came about, that,
Ah,
heard that, we were Nazis, or I was a Nazi. And um, I go, people like you are exactly the fucking problem with what the scene has, because all it takes is one fucking moron to start something, and that can be anybody. Um, in fact, the person who did it was an ex-girlfriend of our bass player and Vincent Crowley. And she has been doing shit for fucking the last couple years. He ended up leaving the band because of it, because he's like, I don't want you guys to get all the bullshit. And all it takes is one person to fucking say something, and everybody submits. So I kind of talked to some friends, and I was like, I don't want them to fucking win. I said, I'll put this fucking show on myself. So we found a venue that was, oddly enough, right next to an occult shop that owned it. And they did like different, types of shows there and events. And I talked to the owner, and I told her the whole situation, what was accused. And I said, feel free to go online and go search anything we have out, go search interviews, go read the lyrics. If you find anything there, feel free to say fuck off. I said, one thing I can honestly say, I might not say stuff that's PC, but I have never promoted that shit ever, and um she did that, just that. And she came back. She goes, well, I don't have a problem. Well, as soon as we announced it, a couple more people, uh, called in, and, she kind of told me, and I can't say who it is. I would love to, but I tried to confront this person, and they fucking pussed out. And that's all I'll fucking say. Their girlfriend made the accusations, and this is from a band that is pretty fucking big, and it's a death metal band.
ah,
And I'm like, and which is very controversial in their lyrics too. I'm like, are you really gonna fucking do that to our band when your band's doing the same fucking shit? And I literally fucking tried to get this guy on the phone through a mutual friend, and he completely fucking pussed out. And this is a guy that was a pretty big Acheron fan at one point. And I've met several times, and I never had a problem with him. Mind you, girlfriends or wives or whatever, they can have their own views. But if tell me, don't leave me in limbo, because if you leave me in limbo, I'm just going to assume you're enemy, man. You're on my shit list right fucking now. And the fest went on. I called up Revok from Morton Red. I said, man, I fucking would love to have you guys come. I told Satanas from Pittsburgh, and then a band called Church from Columbus. They're really fucking talented death metal band. You guys gotta check them out, man. They're really
Yeah, they've been
fucking
around
good.
for a while, Church.
Yeah, and I have no idea why they're not signed yet, because they're better than so many fucking bands out there. But we put on the fest, we sold it out, didn't have one fucking problem. And funny, the bigger venues here now, I I'll get every once in a while the promoter now they want to book us. So it's like we won the battle, but it's still like I'm still so pissed that some childish fucking shit in the scene was like that.
And what's funny about that, Vincent, is we had you on our show, like I said, in 2023. And if you listen to that episode, we talk about Infidel Reich, and we have this whole conversation. That's tongue in cheek. There's nothing that's like you're being accused of in that. So if they would have done a little research, they would have figured that out.
Google's a powerful tool. You can go back and look for history and years of stuff, and it doesn't leave the internet. So if you had said something, and I've known you a long time, and I've never, ever thought that of you. And I know what Infidel Reich is, and it's so tongue-in-cheek that it's fucking so funny that somebody would even assume,
Yeah.
they're stupid.
Well, these are people that probably never heard of carnivore or SOD. It's and that was total paying homage to that, and our big fascination for Motorhead. That's just that was that band.
Right.
And again, I think in recent months, people are fucking sick of it, and you're seeing the pushback, and the more freedom of speech. But I don't know about you guys. It's like, this whole last, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. He was a big time Christian. Would I say he deserved it? Absolutely not.
Well, no
You
one
should
should kill
not.
anybody just for just freedom of speech.
Yeah. And, he did have stuff that he made sense with, and he had stuff I didn't agree with. That is the whole thing about debate and conversation that is missing in this fucking country. And now if people are settling their differences with a cheap shot gun bullshit, how weak. You fucking shoot someone from fucking 200 yards. Yeah, you're a real fucking tough guy. It's
You know what's crazy, Vincent? And maybe I'll ask you about this. And we never really get into this on the show, but like it's funny because as we talked about years ago when you were on the show, everyone was canceling everything, right? They're pulling, they're this and that. And what's crazy now is it's still going on, but it's also going on from who you wouldn't expect it anymore to do. Like I saw people, it's the side, and we won't get into any the whole political parties, but there's people canceling now that were complaining about the people that were canceling before.
Yep.
It's insane, man. It's like it's just real. You couldn't make it up. I mean, look at Guar, right? They're attacking Guar for something that Guar's done since the beginning, pretty much.
Right. Well, that's why, like with Infidel, we made sure to say this isn't right or left at all.
Yeah.
This is like we are in the middle, and we are just observing stuff, and we're making that observation. And I'm like that. I always say those who get power eventually get greedy with power. And as much problem we've had with the left, how much since that assassination have now the right pushed the God squad on everybody?
Yeah.
And pushing that whole everybody needs Jesus and stuff like that. And, Jimmy Kimmel, I think he sucks. He should have stuck to the Man Show. It's
But
like
freedom of speech is freedom of speech. You can't take it away from him. Once you do that, you're just as
Exactly.
bad as the people you were complaining about.
Exactly. But the other thing about Kimmel, which I understand, is when he put blame on the MAGA fucking people, that's misinformation. And, if you were going to make fun of them, that's one thing. But that's my whole problem. You can say what you want about whatever, but when you start giving false information, because you all know as soon as a shooting happens, each side has their own propaganda they put out.
Yeah.
And most of the time, both sides are completely fucking wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just getting, especially with AI now, because these fucking idiots are making this fake shit up. you're putting false information, you're putting false videos up. It's a scary time because you don't know what's real anymore.
Yep. No, and to me, I'm not on I'm a and Ed will tell you, I'm not on any side. I just know that, everyone seems like they're pushing everyone's got a story, everyone's just bullshitting everybody, and everyone's just fucking fighting with each other, and they've turned us into dummies. They've turned us into people who are just fighting with each other over these people who could give a fuck about you or me or anybody, any of
Ex
them, and everything's fake this, fake that. It's ridiculous, and it's hard to get away from these days, man. You gotta disconnect because they've really turned the masses against each other. I've never seen it in my life. Me and Ed were talking about this yesterday. I've never seen it where pretty much everybody hates each other. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
well,
pretty much that point now.
that's a very calculated thing, call me conspiracy theorist or fucking whatever, but it's like, I think everybody knows there's those who have money and there's those who don't.
Yep.
And the ones that have all the real money are the ones pulling the fucking strings. And as long as the fucking circus is all fucked up and divisions there and there's fighting into amongst those people, do you think, I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, do you think if you're a billionaire and you're sitting in your mansion in your own fenced in fucking world, do you think they give a shit about a political war, a race war, a religious war? They could give two shits because they're going to be safe behind the walls.
Yeah.
And they want that constantly. And who owns the Googles? Who owns the Facebooks? Who owns, all these people are fucking pushing for that shit.
Yeah, we root for a bunch of people who could give a shit about us because I don't care who's in the White House. Try to get in there and say hello to them, see what they tell you. Get the fuck out.
Exactly.
I think the problem is that this has been going on for so long that until the internet popped it off and everybody could see it firsthand every day, day in and day out, now it's just become something that's unstoppable. Because, I mean, when we were young, driving through people's storage, we didn't give a fuck about none of this stuff. There were wars going on. Desert Storm was going on. We didn't give a fuck about none of it because we were just living our lives. But now that everywhere you turn, it's front and center. You're indoctrinated. It's like the old Megadeth video where your fucking eyes got the toothpicks and they're making you watch TV. That's what they do every single day. Is you're
Clockwork
fucking
Orange style.
I can't scroll through Facebook or anything without seeing something from whatever.
Well,
and it's
the problem is people that we know in bands, they're on there talking more about fucking politics and music. It's like, we don't care.
That's where we lost. That's where we lost. Because you know what? I don't give a shit about your ideology or your political views. I want to hear about the music you're putting out. Because that's what I care about. That's what we should all care about is music. Just like, I don't care, back in the day when Dave Mustaine came out, Rock the Vote. And I don't care who likes who and who doesn't like who, actors. Just fucking make movies and make music and shut up because you alienate your base when you don't.
Right, exactly. And
but imagine the material that Infidel Reich would have now to write. Now you got a bunch of subject matter.
Man, yeah, I've even talked about that. I was like going, write 2 more fucking albums with all the fucking crazy shit. But it's just getting to the point where, we've been around so fucking long in the metal scene, and for us to fucking keep fueling this bullshit, there's no excuse for it, because when someone sees us fucking posting something and just being idiots and fucking just thriving on just being hateful towards the other person because of their political views, kids watch, and they're like going, oh, that's what we need to be doing and shit. And it's like, no, it's not it's like when punk rock questioned fucking authority and fucking the government. What the fuck happened to that? And I think metal did
now
in a lot of ways too. There's a lot of metal bands, and sure, Ed can confirm it. Back in the day, we didn't fucking go, oh, you're not like us. You can't fucking come to a show. You can't listen to what we listen to. Man, if you were fucking into the metal, you were into the underground, you were in the scene, you were fucking welcome. And as long as you weren't a prick, no one gave a fuck.
We talked about that time you had you on, man. Back then, if they're a killer, no matter what the band may believe in and stuff like that, man. Now it's,
well, you didn't really know.
Yeah.
because it was never told. Nobody gave
Yeah.
a shit because they just played music, and that's all people lived for was playing music. That's it,
Mhm.
you know?
And
And times have changed, man. And I hope we can get back to just playing music because there's so many festivals and shows going on around the world that, man, that's all we should be worried about, man. Not fucking stuff that we as nobodies, as you said, as the real poor can fucking control. I
yeah,
can't control nothing. There's no I could talk on Facebook till I'm blue in the face. Do you think my words are gonna change anything?
no.
Nada. Not a fucking thing. All it's gonna do is piss somebody off.
Yeah, and I really think that type of stuff, it's just like that people like to complain and try to get attention. So if someone posts pro this, there's going to be 100 people negative that just to talk shit and get their attention and make their smart ass comments. And if you're negative one thing, they're going to be pro one thing and they're going to do the same fucking thing. And it's all about look at me, look at me. You know, it's just getting fucking ridiculous. And
I think the days when we started to look up to what they call um, internet influencers, people who fucking have no skills whatsoever except to get in front of a camera and say stupid shit and
mhm,
then get clicks for that. That's where we fucking the train came off the tracks. When that's who people are looking up to is, you know, somebody who picks a trend on TikTok or whatever and fucking does it. That's not the people we need to be fucking thinking about. I mean,
yeah, what?
that's where fucking society's just crumbling, I
Yeah, I
think.
mean that you made a perfect fucking point, and half these fucking people don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. I've
Yeah.
seen some metal fucking shit on YouTube, and these fuckers don't know fucking shit. But you know, it's but they're the perfect, and they got the fucking 300,000 fucking views and shit like that just because they're cool in some fucking network somewhere.
I was gonna ask you about that. I'll bring it up now. So obviously we don't do video on this show. We do
Mhm,
audio, and it's on purpose actually, because, as we always say, we grew up in a time period of college radio, WSOU up in New Jersey, the heavy metal radio stations, where you actually have to use your mind a little bit when you listen to the stuff.
mhm,
Now, I mean, there's so many influencers, metal influencers, as we're talking about.
yeah,
Um, just so many I scroll through and I just can't believe, like, all these channels, and like you're saying, these people have, like 5,000 views a video every day. I'm like, "Jesus Christ, man." I'm like, then you listen to it and it's like it reminds me of going to the mall when I was in high school. It's just
yeah,
very mall-y and campy and stuff like that, man. Um, and there's some great ones, like, I love Revik, we talked about him before we signed on, like, he's entertaining, but there's other ones too, man. It's everyone's kinda like reaching out and trying to grab this thing now of who's more metal and who's more that. So we don't even me and Ed don't even go into that bracket because, we don't do videos and stuff. But what's your thoughts on that? I'm sure you see it too, man.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's some really good channels out there, but there's a lot of fucking stupid ones too. And some are popular, some are not. It's funny because some of the best ones they don't get that many views, and it's. I know it's all a matter of how much you post and all that shit. It's a whole business fucking thing. But well, for example, are you guys familiar with J Dog from Hell's
Oh,
Headbangers?
oh, yeah. Mhm.
I'm pretty good friends with them, and you know when we talk, I said about because he's posted a video for the last several years, like every day, and he all he does is stick a camera. He doesn't edit, just puts it whatever he says. He goes, you know, I have to fucking say absurd, stupid, ridiculous shit just to get views. He goes, but then I'll have an interview with a kick-ass fucking band, or
Put
and
up
the
live
views on
footage
his
and no one watches.
yeah, they have to have some kind of extreme shit in there to get the views. He's a businessman because he's promoting Hell's Headbanger, so he does what he has to do. Does what he has to do, but fucking it's just amazing because he goes, I don't even hardly look at my fucking comments anymore because it's just like little kids making
Yeah.
fucking smart ass fucking comments. He goes, but every comment pushes the video. And, you know, they said you can call me a fag or this and that and do whatever you want, but he goes, it's gonna help my video. And I'm like, well, I guess you know how to play the game, but there are people that have to do shit like that that want to push the fucking better stuff, like the interviews and talk more serious, but it's almost like you got to entertain, you know?
Talk shit. There's a
It's
dude that puts out these videos. He used to do them when he first started. I don't know if you know who Robert Frank is, but
no.
he used to sit in his car. He's a big muscular dude, and he would just do like the wrestling promos, just talking shit, cutting promos, all looking sweaty and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got him popular. Then
Yep.
when he just started doing regular videos and just talking to people or whatever, people are like, why don't you go back to doing those videos? And he's like,
Uh,
so if I'm not the raging lunatic acting like a fucking testosterone laced fucking crazy man, I'm not good because
Right.
now I'm just talking to you like normal people. It's like what got him to the dance. People are like, no, we want you talking shit. And it's like, so you don't want real.
Right.
You want the WWE version of me. You don't
Right.
want the real version. You want to see the fucking clown behind
Yeah.
the curtain. Okay, I got you. See, that's what sucks. Is
Yeah.
people don't want real. They want some fantasy world. And I think that's why people like bands that were like black metal, like Dimmu Borgir, when they come out, they're in their getup. Kiss.
Mhm.
They're in
Yeah.
their getup. They want to see the fucking show. But
Yes.
if you just come out and you're a good fucking killer band like Necrophagist,
Mhm.
those dudes were as plain as Jane, but that fucking dude was probably one of the best guitar players I've ever seen. And the way he sang and played, and I was just like, how do you fucking do that, dude? But
Right.
the people are like, they're killer, but they're boring. Why? But they're boring because you do it.
Right.
You
Well,
Right.
fucking
I
do
do
it. And
like the Kiss look, man, from back in the day, so I'm gonna have to
well, no, what I'm saying, but Kiss actually put on a show though. What I'm
Yeah, yeah, I
saying
know, I'm
is,
only fucking with you.
but if I'm talking about there's some bands out there that perform a different way, but if they're not extreme or they're not putting on some sideshow like a Slipknot or a fucking whatever,
Right.
it's like, really? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't know music.
Right.
You
And
just
that
want you want to go to the circus.
right, right. And there's a place for all those different types, there's the bands just go on and fucking kill it, and then there's ones that get real theatrical, there's some that just do a little bit, and there's all a place for all that stuff. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of, how much do people want out of you? It's not like, especially underground bands, if you're Watain and shit and you get a lot of money, yeah, you can have a big ass fucking setup, or, Dimmu and Cradle of Filth. They can afford that stuff, but you're starting out black metal band or a satanic death metal band. You're limited on what you can do, not to mention you're not playing these big venues where you can put all that stuff up
Yep.
And you're
too.
driving around in a fucking van to start out with and
Right.
barely fucking surviving on the road for pennies, man. That's just the way people don't, again, they don't see behind the curtain. They just want to see what's up on stage,
Well,
they don't
Vincent
understand.
mentioned with Tan, I remember when they first came to the States, they were driving around in a van and they were picking, they were basically driving around with their roadkill for the stage show. And, cause, I remember Eric back when they first came out, it just goes to show you again, how old we are. We're getting old, right? That's pretty much what it comes down to. And for us guys, we talk about how crazy the world is. I feel bad for the younger people because they're going to be stuck in it. We don't have, how much time do we really have left, man? Now, pretty much we got to worry about our health now, which actually, Vincent, we can talk about that too, man, because you actually had a emergency surgery recently.
Yeah. It was actually lucky it happened the week, because the weekend it happened, the following weekend, we were supposed to do a festival in New York. And it was like a Thursday night, and I got home from work and, cooked some hamburgers and I put some, spice on it. And later on that night, I was getting, lower abdominal pains. And I was like going, man, what the fuck's going on? I must have fucking put some bad peppers on it or something. And the next day, it was like still bad. And, I'm bullheaded. I'm like, I'll just see how it goes, whatever. And Saturday came and I was like, there's no way any type of hot peppers like still in my intestines right now. And I kind of did a little bit more research, and it said, the appendix is in that area. You should get it checked out if you're getting bad pains. And my wife took me to the hospital and they did a scan and they're like, yeah, you need surgery right now. They said it hasn't burst, but if you don't get it done now, there's a good chance. And um, end up getting that surgery, and went good. We actually had an issue after the operation, and which was kind of fucked up. I woke up at like 3 in the morning, shaking, and my blood pressure all dropped and shit. It was due to them not paying attention to something, but luckily they figured it out, and I got back on the right track. So, you know, I got about another week and a half of recovery where I can't really lift like really heavy stuff right now, but I feel great. Surgery went well, and I can't wait to get back to fucking normal.
Yeah, man, it's always a reality check, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but, like, Vincent, are you starting to get I'm starting to get, like, the funeral brochures in the mail or the emails asking me if I planned my death yet and stuff like that.
Well, I think the AARP fucking shit that they've been doing for the last goddamn,
Yes.
you know,
Every fucking month, man. It's
Or
really
Facebook every time you sign on, let's be honest, man, there's
and
people
they
dropping like
add
flies.
the extra coupons in there saying, "Hey, you don't realize the discounts you get with the AARP, bro. You get Denny's for fucking $5 off, bro."
yeah. I just, one thing, listening to your show, just when you mention all the people that have passed in this, I mean, it's fucking
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, that's when you really think, yeah, the ride can stop at any time, man. It's like, we're not immune to it. And, you can think you're going to be immortal, but that's not the way it is. And, that's why even with death metal in general, because how much longer are we all going to be able to do this? Yeah, rock musicians have played in their 70s and shit like that, but they're not playing extreme metal. And there's going to be a fucking cutoff point at one time or another.
Think
Do
about
you
that all the
remember,
time.
Vincent, like, as a kid, do you remember when the first time you learned about death and the fact that you're gonna die? Do you remember how that hit you? Because I actually remember this moment in my life.
Not really, you have relatives, and to be very truthful, I didn't start thinking about that till like way later on. Death was always like, I'm going to celebrate my life. I ain't going to concentrate on fucking death. But then when you get friends that start passing and fucking people, you're like, wow, that just fucking happened, and you're like, you definitely better appreciate what you fucking have right now because it could end tomorrow and it could end in a minute. And, I always, you get like younger guys, they'll fucking bust your balls and say, oh, the old man and shit like that. It's like, yeah, well, you could get hit by a car tomorrow and that could be real fucking simple too. It's like, life is just one of those things where you got to live it to the fullest when you can.
Do you remember the first time you actually experienced death personally? Like, for me, I was a child in our neighborhood whose house burned down. I'll never forget it, was that was the first. So do you remember that actual first experience for you?
Yeah, it was a aunt of mine, and it was in Pittsburgh, and we went there and just, the whole family, the layout, actually seeing the body on, display and all that stuff, and it didn't seem real. And, even when my grandmother passed, I remember going up to the casket and it just didn't seem fucking real at all, and yeah, it's just one of those fucking things. It's kind of hard to grasp.
Are you someone who believes in, like, the supernatural and stuff?
Yeah, I definitely believe in the supernatural. Whether it's, I don't know all about spirits or whatever. I do, scientifically, we all have a life force that passes on, and whether that energy, I honestly think if you leave a lot of energy, you can leave an imprint, which some maybe consider hauntings or whatever like that. Uh, in essence, could be. I don't think your personality, continues and stuff. I think you just go to another form and kind of go somewhere else. But none of us have the answer to those questions because none of us ever came back after witnessing
Yeah.
this stuff.
When you were I know when you were young, you were, Christian, you were raised, right? I think you guys had, like, Baptist ties too.
Yep.
So, like, when you sat there at a young age, did you ever think, like, even as a kid, like, were you just like, "Oh, this sounds like a bunch of bullshit," or were you kinda, like, confused?
Yeah, I was. I was that kid that, my parents, they started off Catholic and then they found the born again Christian shit. And that's when, the Catholicism was always just like, as a kid, it's like entertaining to a point because it's like this creepy fucking place, and you got statues, and you got some guy hanging from a cross with blood dripping off his side and thorns in his head. And um, you didn't really understand it. It always, to me, seemed kind of dark and creepy. And um, when my parents became born again, the friends changed and stuff like that. And it was a whole different, it wasn't like, uh, you got to confess your sins. You have to, ask for forgiveness and stuff in the, confessional and stuff. It began now you take Jesus into your heart and you have to live this way. But it was this almost like the Stepford Wives where people just kind of were like, yes, yes. And they just were kind of just programmed. And I really think that was a big social thing too, because who gets together? Your parents, their friends, people from their work, in their community, and it's almost like you have to be a part of that group. And I just never went with it. They put me in sitting in those pews, man. All I could think about is God, how long, much longer it was it.
Yep.
I remember they used to have those little fucking envelopes that you put the donations in, and I'd take the little pencil, I'd be drawing shit the whole fucking time, not paying attention. And um, yeah, I just never fell for it. And then when you get forced to go to Bible school and all that type of stuff, actually just did an interview where I just talked about. I remember going to Bible school when I was young, and I was asking these questions, and they got so pissed off they locked me in the fucking furnace room for a fucking hour until the fucking thing was over. And, I told my parents and they're like, "Oh, they didn't do that. They're just making," and I'm like, "No, they really fucking did. They put me in this fucking room for an hour because they said I was making everybody fucking, say shit or joke around and stuff." And um from that point on, I was like, fuck this shit.
It's and when did you start getting into? Because I know with you, you're like just like us, you're a big horror guy, and we also obviously at our ages, we grew up in a great time period for that for horror movies too.
Mhm.
What was the first horror movie that actually had an impact on you that you saw that you were, hooked? Like I think of like obviously like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre because I had heard all this hype about true stories as a little kid and stuff like that. Like what was the first one that affected you where you went home and were like, oh shit?
Well, I always liked I remember the Universal monsters. I mean, that was like the stuff that was always playing like on the TV. And my mom actually was a big fan of that. I don't know if you guys remember, there's an old comedy team called Abbott and Costello.
Oh yeah,
And they meet
Meet
Dracula and
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein and shit. And watch stuff like that when you're a kid. But the one movie that really just grabbed me was a movie called Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Oh
And it
yeah.
was kind of like, that leader was kind of like a Manson type and, doing these rituals in the graveyard and making a mockery, just being very blasphemous. Uh, and at the end, he realizes, yeah, maybe you shouldn't be fucking around with shit you don't know about. And that just, man, I was like totally obsessed with the creature feature. And we had like Sir Gray's Ghastly, I think in Michigan, and I think that was Michigan. But who was who was the one in Tampa? I
Count Gordeval comes on here, the old horror host from the Horror Hall of Fame. He comes on this show sometimes.
think they had Paul Bearer.
Dr. Paul Bearer, yep.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I miss
Yes.
those. Those were times where, I mean, I think kids really miss out on that stuff because I remember Saturdays and Sundays when these shows would come on, I would just wait for that to happen, and it was the greatest time. And then most of the time the movies sucked, but it was just watching the whole thing with somebody else, kinda giving you a show.
I was about to say that, you watch those, like, even Svengoolie is still around over in Tampa, you see him on there now, and, Dr. Paul Bearer, like you mentioned, and all the ones that we grew up with. the hosts were better than the actual movies they showed, because they usually showed, like, some of the lowest quality movies there were, and they would actually talk about that when they were hosting the show, like,
Right.
and it
In
was
fact,
a
I'm wearing Elvira, the queen, she's
yes.
fucking
Still beautiful woman too, man.
yeah, I
Still.
mean, she was awesome. She gave entertainment, she gave, uh I don't know, comedy to it too, and it was entertaining, and she did it for so many years. You gotta give her credit, and like you said, she's still looked good time she
Yeah.
retired.
I remember, Children of the Corn, believe it or not, when I saw that, and the thing with that was is, that was during the whole satanic panic thing, in that time period. It was '84, I think that came out. And I remember
Mhm.
seeing all these heavy metal specials, and then there was actually a movie about kids killing their parents, and I was like, that kinda blew my mind a little bit, 'cause I don't think there was anything like that at that time.
Yeah. I was just talking, my wife and I, we watch so many horror movies and we watch so many horror series. And I don't know about you guys, but when you watch and you have so much, there's been times where I'll click on a movie and I go, did we watch that a couple of months
Yeah.
ago? And it's like, I can't remember even what the fucking story was. It could be a good movie, but you get so much thrown at you, you don't capture it. Where I can remember back in the day when you had to rent a VCR to watch a movie. And you get the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and you'd fucking watch it like 5 times that night with your friends, and just you you watched movies more and you got into them more. And it really has kind of crossed over to music too, I think, because now there's so much music, you you can't really jump on a lot of albums like you used to, where you get fucking leprosy and you played it 500 fucking times,
Now there's
and
500 records every week.
yeah, exactly.
Do you remember, Something Wicked This Way Comes?
Oh yeah,
With, Jonathan Pryce was in that, and
that was
Pam
great.
Grier. I had my kids watch that, and I tell you what, even as an adult, still watching it, man.
Yeah, they make good movies still, but the stuff they did back then is just incredible. And in fact, my wife and I were just watching they were talking about movies on YouTube, and there's a movie called The Void, and that is probably one of my and it's been out for a while now. It's not like brand new, but it's in the last 10 years it came out. But they had practical effects. They had this Lovecraftian kind of vibe to the whole thing. It was just done so good. And I'm like, why don't they do that more often? Because it's like CGI bullshit. Um, I'm sorry, fucking seeing ghosts, computer ghosts, it just doesn't do shit for me. It just
Yeah.
That's
I
because
I was a fan of the Terrifier movies, man. I
The
mean, the new
Conjuring
Terrif
46 has to come out tomorrow, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
And The Nun 49. I mean, that's what it is they regurgitate the
yeah.
same, my daughter and they watch that, and they're like, "You wanna go?" I'm like, "No,"
Yeah.
because that doesn't unfortunately, there's other movies that I've seen come out that are probably sleepers that
Mhm.
nobody will see
Yeah.
that blow it away because it's not all, overproduced and CGI'd. I mean, we've talked about it a million times with people. I think you cannot dispute we grew up at the right time.
Oh, no doubt. I mean,
Music, movies, sports, everything, like everything, because
yeah.
everything didn't change. Everything was like just perfect. I mean, yeah,
Well,
especially music.
what they do now is like, since everybody has to compete, you, people don't want to use their imagination anymore. Like, if you go back to The Conjuring, like the Annabelle, you remember the Warrens, it was a Raggedy Ann doll. It wasn't some fucking creepy ass looking fucking shit. And I think they should have kept that way, because that makes it even more horrifying, that something that could be on a normal kid's thing, not some looks like in a horror fucking movie, And it's just like, yeah, was it Anthony Hopkins? There was a fucking movie called Magic, and it was just a ventriloquist dummy. And man, between that and some
Scary.
of those old Twilight Zones, that was creepy
Yeah.
as fuck, but it was like a normal ventriloquist dummy.
Well, the original Child's Play,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
but then they had to fucking make him what he shouldn't have been. Like,
Mhm.
they took like you said, Annabelle, they took it and made him human instead of making him what he was, which was like a possessed fucking doll. You know
Right.
what I mean? And it sucks that they take such a good idea and then they fucking put it in the toilet for money
Yeah.
because it gets overplayed.
Yeah, I just think that nowadays people want everything in your face at once. Like, but then it works sometimes. Like you just talked about Terrifier. I love that the whole fucking series so fucking much because how many fucking people in movies like Jason and fucking Michael Meyer and fucking Chucky and fucking Freddy Krueger, they start making it more calm and like kid friendly and stuff. And the last Terrifier, he's fucking cutting some dude from his fucking balls to his throat. It's like that's what we
We
need.
had David Howard Thornton on here for a couple hours from played Art the Clown. I
Yeah,
mean, it was to us that was I don't even know if we can still get him back on now, that movie's so big. When we got him, it was kinda like the bridge, like the
right.
movie was doing well, but now it's like pretty much it's
Yeah,
a mo
we had him when
he's
they
an
were
icon
bringing
now,
the
Art the Clown.
Terrifier 2 back in the theater for the day. Remember they were relaunching
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
And
He was
and me
great.
I took my son and I was so fucked up because we were sitting behind in front of this guy, and when every time he would stab somebody or fucking mutilate him, the guy would laugh. And then people were laughing, and I'm just like, and then I start laughing because it's contagious, and I'm like, we're going to fucking hell, man. We're laughing at this shit. It's like it doesn't even you become desensitized to brutal murder on a screen. I mean, before it would be like you would cover your eyes. It was so atrocious to see entrails everywhere. And now it's just we're fucking laughing about it. And I'm just like,
Oh,
but
Yeah,
those movies are brutal.
that bedroom scene in part 2, man, when he's bleaching the chick and putting the salt in her
oh
wounds, I
yeah.
mean, that is you
Yeah.
know, but it's, and what's great about that character too is it's basically a mime. I mean, there's no speaking, but his body language is so killer. Howard Thornton does a great job, and I gotta say Damon Leone, who makes the movies, I mean, he does most of the makeup in that, and the blood is great. It reminds me of the old it kind of takes me back a little bit to the slasher period from the '80s. Obviously, there's more to it now, but,
Yeah.
I think those films are great. First one is kinda like, nothing like the second 2. It was kinda undergroundish. You didn't expect this movie, and you see it on, like I think I saw it on Netflix one night at, like, 3 in the morning, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And, obviously, I knew the character from back in the day when it was on the miniseries,
Hmm.
um, so, I mean, but, yeah, great.
All
And
Hallows Eve.
All Hallows Eve, yeah, with the
Yep.
kids, when he's I mean, that's the thing too, is you go back to All Hallows Eve, and, you're not used to these the Freddys or the Jasons killing the kids, right? You go
Right.
back to Hallows Eve, and he's killing kids, something's fucked up right there, and, really did a good thing with that character. At first, you're getting into horror, and then you're picking up Killers from Alice Cooper from your cousin's record collection. We know that the last time we talked to you a couple years ago.
Right.
But Black Sabbath is the most important band for you, and do you remember the first time you heard Sabbath, and what was the actual first piece of music you heard from them?
Well, that was one of the albums I got with the Alice Cooper. It was the volume 4. And, you know, I love the Alice Cooper because that was the first one I put on the turntable and stuff. And then the Sabbath took over, and man, I swore those 2 albums didn't leave. I think it was like Led Zeppelin 4, maybe. It was like some kind of, but those the Alice Cooper and the Black Sabbath just resonated. And the more I listened to Sabbath, the more the tone, the feel. And when I got the debut, I can literally remember, you get in arguments with your parents and you just go to your room and fucking listen to Black Sabbath and get all pissed off and shit. And dude, that was like my go-to when I was pissed off or just fucking needing to listen to something. And I was so into it. I mean, still am to this day. I am never going to get sick of Black Sabbath. And I can honestly say all eras of Black Sabbath. Seven Star, but you know, everything else is fucking amazing. And if you listen to some of the stuff I write, you can definitely tell I have some Sabbath influence. It's always going to be there. And Tony Iommi is a god.
When you were, like, in, high school, so say, are you, like, are you into the zines and stuff like that? Are you tape trading?
The tape trading came actually later on. When I was in Michigan, I had a group of friends and we were kind of discovering this stuff on our own. We didn't really write to anybody or anything like that, but we found, you know, early Motley Crue, early Twisted Sister, then we find, fucking Venom and Merciful Fate. That was like the beginning. And then when I moved to Florida, uh, I was pretty pissed because spent up to like second grade on till about 17 in Michigan. They pick it up and all your friends are not there anymore. And the only thing good about that is I started playing guitar more because I just picked up the guitar when I was 16. So I would, be outside in my car fucking practicing or skip a class and practice. And then with the magazines I started to get at the record stores, you would write to different people in the back of the magazines and do, trading and stuff. And that's how I really got into that. And the zines, wow, that was like the greatest era of also, hey, check this out. I copied you this demo and they sent me this album and you just got to learn so much about different music that way.
You mentioned moving to Florida, and I know and we'll talk about I think the first real metal show you went to, Ben took you to, I think it was the Massacre Morbid Angel show, which we could talk about. What was the first show you ever personally went to as a kid? Like, whether it be Kiss or whatever, or at the roller skating rink, some local band?
Believe it or not, Charlie Daniels and the Outlaws.
Ah, there you go.
I I one thing is, when I was a kid, I got my dad like, country and southern rock, so I learned about, all this stuff, even like the Bob Seger stuff and, that classic rock. But Outlaws, Charlie Daniels, I was still to this day a big Leonard Skinner fan, Molly Hatchet, Blackfoot, a lot of those type of bands. And yeah, that was actually the very first concert I went to. And then after that, for rock, that would have to be Rush. Rush was the other band.
You mentioned your dad too being into, like, the bluegrass. I know your grandfather played keyboards and stuff like that, which we talked about when we first had you on.
Mhm.
But your dad tried to get you into guitar, right? And you didn't have interest at first when you were younger.
Yeah, because he liked all kinds of different like music, but when he was in a band in high school, and it was like, like early Beatles, Beach Boy type stuff, Pipeline, that stuff. And I'd hear him playing in the basement, and I was like, that's cool, but I really wasn't into that type of music. And I just never really had the urge. Especially then, I was very much into sports. I was into playing football, baseball, pretty much anything athletic to get into. And so that's why I didn't get into it at that time.
And you're still a Buccaneers fan, right? Or you're
Absolutely,
not really?
3 and
Yeah.
0. 3
Oh,
and
yeah.
0.
Mayfield, man, people did not, you gotta give that guy credit. Anybody knows what we're talking about, man, people didn't believe in that dude.
Yep.
Um, and we talked about I wanted to mention to you because I actually didn't when you first came on our show, you talked about a show that you had seen, the Massacre Morbid Angel show with Ben Myers. And I wanted to ask you because I was not at this. I moved to Florida in '95,
Mhm.
and you're at this show, and you mentioned something about, it was like this is when the rivalry was going on, right, between Cam and Chuck, I believe, and you mentioned something about them bringing a dummy on the stage or a prop. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about that more?
Yeah. Well, that show was pretty much the first, I would say, death metal show I went to. Uh, I had been to, I seen Savatage and I seen Nasty Savage prior, obviously. But yeah, that uh Cam came out and he had the doll and he goes, "This is the evil Chuck doll." And I knew about death, but I didn't know the whole deal with Massacre, the whole history. So then, I think Ben told me the whole thing with them having a problem with Chuck, and he just pretty much made fun of Chuck before one of the songs. And yeah, the evil Chuck doll. I think you can still see it on YouTube.
And you talk about Ben, Ben, as we learned from you the first time you were on, he was a big part of your Florida metal early days, right? Because he actually brought you out to the car, had you listen to Nasty Savage and stuff like that, also worked with you on guitar and everything. Do you
Yeah.
remember the first day that you knew you wanted to be in a band?
Well, right before I moved, I had a friend that played guitar, and then I had another friend. He had a lot of vinyl, and I had vinyl, and he had a Hondo Les Paul copy. And I told him, I'm like, man, I'll trade you some of these albums for that piece of shit, and he's like, yeah. And my other friend, he was already, playing stuff, and he goes, well, if you get the guitar, I'll start showing you some stuff. And he started me out with Sabbath and some Priest and, Kiss and AC/DC. And we were going to try to get something together. Well, when I moved, I had such a chip on my shoulder about that. I was like, I'm doing this. That's why I don't give a fuck about anything else. I want to get a fucking band together. And then people are like going, well, you haven't played long. And I was like, that's no fucking excuse. There's been people who have done that and shit. And I was just really determined to do that. And especially having a lot of time, I met some people when I first moved there that were into metal, but not a lot. That came a little bit later. But I think I got real focused with myself and where I was kind of going. And I went from learning stuff to just fucking around and writing my own stuff. And that just kind of motivated me.
The first time I saw
Entity.
Yeah, yeah.
Entity.
Yep.
Entity.
First time
Yeah.
I saw Acheron, I believe I was talking to Ed about this yesterday maybe, was 1997 at the State Theater. I believe you guys played with Diabolic that night. I don't know if you remember that gig at
Oh,
all,
yeah. Yep.
but when was the first ever Acheron show?
Well, if we go all the way back, that would have been in Pittsburgh at the place called the Electric Banana. And, we played to maybe 20 fucking people. I was playing guitar then, I wasn't singing. And I remember I did like a fucking solo, and I had like a steel crucifix I got from a graveyard. And I started scraping it up on the fucking guitar, and fucking I smashed it. And the fucking owner after the show completely had a coronary over it. And it's John Banana, his name was, and he was known in the scene. And it, it was the greatest fucking feeling, man, because it's like, because I hadn't played since the Nocturnus days. And even with Nocturnus, it was so surreal. It was just like, I still couldn't believe I was playing with Mike Brown and,
Wow.
Richard Bateman, that had been names in the fucking metal community. And for them to give me a chance, that helped me too. I mean, without that, who knows if there would have been an Acheron, because as Ed said, Entity was my first kind of complete band where we actually played, but we, we, we're all starting out. We all have different fucking interests and stuff like that, and which is fine, but we were not organized in how to fucking get a band together and project that correctly.
And when I saw you guys, I think you guys were doing the anti-God, anti-Christ. I think you guys were still doing stuff for that at the '96 record.
Mhm.
'Cause you guys did that actually at Audio Lab, right?
Yes, we did.
Because that
Yes.
had, what, John Scott on keys, Mike, and Richard Christie on drums, but I
Mhm.
think the live when you guys played at the State, I think it was Ben, Mike, you, and Gabriel on
Yep.
drums?
Yeah. Yeah. That
Okay.
was, and it was Diabolic, and it was Eric.
So,
Oh, Alas.
alas, Eric Rattan.
Yeah, that was his band. And it actually, God damn it, fucking someone else was in that fucking band at that time. Oh, damn it. Someone else was someone big was in that fucking band. Eric went, or Alex Webster was in it at the time.
That's right. That's right. Alex was doing the Lost too. Yes.
Yeah, and you know, Eric and those guys are so fucking cool and shit. And I remember they were doing like keyboard stuff, and they were like worrying about sound check, and they're like, "Do you mind if we do a little bit more of a sound?" I'm like, you can take our sound checks; it's gonna sound the fucking same as you know how
Exactly. It
sound
never
check.
sounds the same at the State Theater, man. Never.
So,
Never.
and that was a fun night. That was like a packed house, and fucking,
Yeah.
I
I
my
was,
memory of you at a show, because I play, I mean, I did shows with you over the years. What was the
mhm.
Tampa Bay Metal Awards? Because you were,
Oh.
dude, you came out into the crowd and you smashed fucking that dude. I mean, you shoulder blocked me, dude, and almost sent me into the fucking parking lot because you were doing the ritual in between songs with the girl, and
Yeah,
somebody was screaming shit at you from the stage, and I know who it was. And you came off the crowd, you came out of the thing, and I remember you grabbed him and fucking slammed him to the ground, and you were like, "Is that fucking cheesy, motherfucker?" Because he kept saying something was cheesy,
right.
and then you came by me and smiled because you knew, like, and I
Right.
laughed, dude, and you went back up there and just grabbed the fucking bass and just went right into the ritual was done. You went right into the next fucking
The
song, and I
ritual
was
was
like,
done.
and it was just so angry for the rest of the fucking set, dude. And I was like, that's how you do it right there.
Yeah, where do
It's
you first meet Ed?
Probably
well,
people
I met
storage.
him from Dave Sawyer,
Yep.
and
Did you go to Gaither?
no, my
Oh,
brother went to Gaither.
okay. Because that's where I went to school with Dave.
Yeah.
That's how I knew Dave, and then Entity. And I remember one time I met you hanging out with Dave,
Uh-huh.
outside of Gaither or somewhere in that area, the pool hall.
Yeah.
And that's where I heard about Entity. And Dave was like, "Yeah, dude, I do a band with these guys, Mike Poindexter, blah blah blah." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit!" And then, of course, circle back. I'm jamming with Dave,
Right?
and you're doing Acheron out at fucking People's Storage, and it's like it's just been a long fucking career.
Yeah, it's wild too because I remember, when I left for Pittsburgh, I left in '88, and when I came back in '91, and then I think I ended up moving back to Tampa in '92, uh, bumping into the same people, but wow, it's like fucking everybody's in these established bands now and fucking doing shit, and it was like really cool. And like you said, people storage. Go outside, you're gonna bump into someone and you're friends with, and it was always like cool.
Everybody who was everybody was playing out there, man. Jenna Torturers, you name it. It was like everybody was out there. And then also Audio Lab was out there for a good while before they moved. So
Mhm.
could
Yeah,
record out there too, because that's where Eulogy, that's where we recorded the demo that we did was at Audio Lab and People Storage.
yeah, we recorded the early Acheron. I think we recorded. I don't know if we recorded Anti God there, but I know we did the Satanic Victory EP there, and I believe we recorded part of Lex Talionis there with Mike because he didn't go to Austria with us to finish the album, so we took him and Tony's Black's track there. So,
Do you remember the first time you went to the Brass Mug, Vincent?
oh yeah, yeah. I couldn't tell you what band. It was I live close to there, so when there were shows, I'd always just kind of go up and see what's going on. There's always some metal going on or some chaos, and uh, when I first moved to Tampa, the big thing was Ruby's Pub, and they have since torn that down.
That's where
But
you met Myers, right, Rubies?
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
did you frequent uh Sunset Club?
oh yeah,
I mean, that's where I saw the early days of, I mean, I remember seeing Ravage before they were atheists there.
we
And
played with
and
them there.
yep,
And
and then what
Nocturnus played with
yep,
them.
and that's probably the show I saw.
Yep.
And then of course, Obituary when they were I mean, it was like Amon before they were Deicide. Everybody who was everybody played the Sunset Club in this little tiny shithole that was
Mhm.
so fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you can talk all you want about like shithole clubs. That
Mhm.
one meant something.
Right. I one thing about the Sunset Club, I remember doing a Nocturnus show, and there was like people yelling shit at us, and I didn't know what was going on. And Richard Bateman, he played in Agent Steel,
Yep.
Yep.
and there was people on that crew that were there that were trying to give Richard shit. And I remember it was like a Halloween show, and so we got off the stage, and man, you know how the Sunset Club, there was always fucking chaos and shit. So Mike started having words with somebody outside, and Richard started having some words. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And they're like, these fuckers work for Agent Steel and shit like this. So I was turned around, and I heard Mike say something. And when I turned my head, fucking someone swung on Mike. And then fucking Mike started punching this dude. And Richard had a pumpkin from the stage. And you know how I remember Richard, he was skinny, fucking, he was just,
He was squirrely though.
yeah, but man, he fucking hit this dude in the head with a fucking pumpkin and fucking busted it on this dude's head. And all kinds of chaos fucking happened. And another guy jumped in. I fucking swung, fucking did a few hits. Then people start running. And I remember, can't remember Sanford?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Sanford fucking like chased the one guy and was like punching him on the ground and shit. It was like always fucking some kind of chaos up at the fucking Sunset.
Well, people didn't realize Browning was I think Taekwondo or karate, one of the two. He was many years of martial arts. People didn't realize that Browning doesn't look it, but he could fuck you up, man.
Yeah.
Ask Trey about that.
Yeah. And I've literally seen him fucking, back in Nocturnus when he'd have, shit to say, Mike's a shorter guy. Fucking, he's looking up at him, fucking talking the shit right back at him, and fucking gotta admire that.
Yeah, man.
And that
Sunset
Agent
Club
Steel-
was brutal.
That Agent Steel period, Ed, you remember that was when, I think that's right when Richard left Purgatory, right? It went with them.
Yeah.
Like you said, you were with Nocturnus. That was 87 because you went back to Pittsburgh, 88.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, yeah, I remember when I left because it's like I was trying to find some people. My whole thing was like I wanted to get back to Detroit because I had those old friends. I was like, well, we get a band together, our old time friends fucking doing it. But by the time I got back to Detroit, everybody's kind of a different headspace and stuff. And I was wanting to do it serious, and those guys, they still love metal, but they were doing other stuff. And I stayed there for a while. Then I moved back to Pittsburgh, and that's when everything just clicked. And what a great fucking scene. I'll tell you, people don't give Pittsburgh enough credit for their fucking metal scene. There's a lot of great people. And
Belial, Brian Malone, all those dudes are from there, and look what they created.
Yeah, I mean,
New Jersey, Pittsburgh, like New York, that tri-state area, the whole triangle, and the music that came out of all of that area, people think it's just Florida. They don't know, man.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Rippencorp.
Yeah, that's how I'm from Jersey. Back when I was a kid, that was the band.
What I'm saying, and all the New York old school bands that we grew up on. I mean, Pittsburgh was one of that was a part of a scene. It was huge.
Yeah, and just to throw like the scene there is like when I stopped at Pittsburgh for a few months before I moved to Detroit and before I moved back to Pittsburgh, but I met Belial the first time I was there at a record store. And I was telling him, I had a song I wanted to get down. There was a band called Eviction who was on Metal Blade at the time, and they were like a crossover band. And they worked at the local record store, Ides, and they were really cool. And the drummer said, Ron, he said that he would help me do, drums for it. And so Belial had a little 4-track, and we recorded in his apartment. But when we tracked the drums, it's funny. I went to King Diamond like several years ago, and I bumped into some of the guys from Eviction. But when we tracked the drums, we did it at their singer's parents' house, and they had a big crucifix on the wall. And when we were setting up, fucking, for some reason, that fucking crucifix popped off the wall and fell on the ground, and everyone just fucking like jaw dropped. And for Todd, the singer, goes, dude, we still talk about that fucking time you fucking tracked the drums and a cross just popped off the fucking wall. But it was just like, everything was so cool there. Everybody was supportive. It wasn't like any ego stuff. And yeah, I'm glad, I love the whole Tampa fucking scene from what, started out and then which continued later on. But that couple years I was in Pittsburgh, it was a magical time for sure.
Do you actually remember the first time you met Benton, speaking of Tampa and the
Yeah, it was
Hoffmans?
actually at the Sunset Club. I was living in Pittsburgh and I flew down to see my family. And Mike Browning told me, he goes, hey, because Mike would tell me about Amon all the time. And he goes, dude, there's a band you're going to fucking love when you fucking see them. He goes, they're fucking totally out of control, satanic and all this shit. So Morbid Angel and Amon were playing. And I'm like, well, I'm there, man. So I went up and I met the Hoffman brothers outside in the parking lot. And we started to talk. And I had flyers for our demo, the Acheron demo we were getting ready to put out. And he's like, yeah, you got to check out our band. And, he was telling me all about Amon and stuff. And he goes, hey, man, let me introduce you to our vocalist. So we went into the Sunset Club and Glenn was at a table with somebody and all chilled out, with a drink. And, we started talking a little bit and fucking, he was really cool, laid back and really serious back then. You know what I mean? He was definitely, his band, it was going to be the fucking evilest shit, And I saw them and they just fucking blew me away, man. I was just like, holy shit. And then realistically, that was the first time I saw Morbid with David Vincent singing. So the last time I saw it was with Browning. And I was like, man, what a fucking, I was like, this music's going somewhere now, man. It's just like, it has a whole different direction.
Yes, it was such a crazy time period. You think of that's the thing about Tampa. Like we always talk about, people who didn't live there, or have not been there. They always ask about Tampa, and I said it is the one place, man. Growing up there, like for me, like I said, I didn't get there till like '95. But every time I went to the Brass Mug or the Ritz or Masquerade, whatever it was at that time, or Janus Landing, or you just never knew. Everyone was there. I mean, you looked over, there's Sandoval, there's Steve from Deicide, and it's just so normal that, I took my wife there for the first time a couple years ago. Even now, there's Corpse Grinder hanging out at the bar. These are, it's just how Tampa is, and everyone's hanging out together and partying too.
Right.
You talk to these guys; it's a very down to earth thing, So,
when also most bands now, you look back, 10 years after. So you're talking, you came back 92. So jump 10 years later, a lot of those people that were in one band are now playing in another big death metal band, and they're all members are swapping over. I mean, how many fucking bands I've been in, you know what I mean? And that are big bands, you know what I mean? And it's like, you look at how many people have actually, there was no egos. Everybody just kind of, well, I'm no good here anymore, so I'll just move over to here or whatever, you know what I mean? And that's how Tampa was.
Yeah. But you think about it, it was like that with like the classic bands in the UK. There was like that in California. It was like that in San Francisco. I mean, people, you're going to play with people that are near you. So it's not shocking that, if there's an opening, that person that just left that band might go to this other band. And it's very, I don't know. It just made fucking sense. And yeah, with all the bands that were there, wow.
Well, it's funny. I always look at myself because when Monstrosity lost a guitar player, Jason was singing, One Eye. And I said, hey, dude, hook me up. And he's like, dude, you can't do Monstrosity, but hey, I'll hook you up with Brutality. And I was like, so I can't do that, but I can do that. What is that? How does that even make, and then I had a party at my house and their new record came out and I played it front to back on guitar. And he was just like, dude, I didn't know. And I was like, well, but now fast forward, now I sing in monstrosity. So who fucking
Right.
you
It
just
all
can't
goes circle.
you just I mean, I'm telling you, man, it's the weirdest fucking
Yeah.
music is weird.
Well,
Yeah.
even look at Vincent with, you look at the first Vincent Crowley record, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the US distro was Brian Kenyon, right? From Aces
Yep.
Records. I
Yep.
mean, so it's like these little things all come together because, I mean, that's how it works there,
Right.
and I mean, actually, since the last time we had you on, the first episode you were on, episode 6. So anybody who's listening, you could go back and hear a bunch of Vincent Crowley history there.
Mhm.
But since that appearance on the show when we had you on, then you put out Anthology of Horror, which came out on Hammerheart Records, out of the Netherlands, right? You got recorded that at Sonic Lounge.
Yes. Yeah, but
Had
Joe
10
Lewis.
tracks on it, including a cover of King Diamond's Killer. That was originally on the Spider's Lullaby, the 95 record. Now, I know you're a huge King Diamond fan, as we all are, Merciful Fate and stuff.
Mhm.
And what made you choose, which is a Killer song, which I'm actually going to play your guys' version of Killer here in a minute. What made you decide to do that cover? And to you, what is your favorite King Diamond album? I'm still in my 40s at the end of the run there, but Conspiracy was like my favorite King Diamond album. I love them. I thought The Eye was killer. I mean, they're still playing stuff from The Eye, live, burned, and stuff like that. For you, what was your favorite King Diamond record? And also, what made you choose to do Killer?
Well, before we start that, I wanted to kind of segue off of talking about the metal scene in Tampa. I recently watched. You remember that Geraldo special, Satan Exposed?
Oh, yeah.
They were at a King Diamond.
Janice Landing.
Yep. And I was telling my wife, I was like, "There's the drummer for Atheist. There's John Schaefer. It's just like it's we're all at shows. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just the way it was back then."
And Vincent, I know what scenes you're talking about with the drummer for Atheist, because they're like talking about, like, they're interviewing those kids. There's like 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all went to the shows. We were fans. We weren't just fucking playing it, But as for King Diamond, probably my favorite album is Abigail, just because of the lyrics, and I like the structuring of it. But then the guitar team on Them is my favorite. But as an album, I think Abigail would be that. As for doing Killer, I wanted to do a song that probably hadn't been done before. I also wanted to do a song that could stand on its own story, since we do horror stories. And, with a lot of King stuff, it's a part of a whole album that's might not make sense. Even though that specific song could stand on its own and it would make sense. And people don't give enough credit to that album. I think there's a lot of good fucking songs on Spider's Lullaby.
Definitely. And I'm going to play that right now, actually. I'm going to play from your guys' Anthology of Horror that came out, I think it was, February 2024?
Yes, it was.
Cool. I'm going to play that. This is Killer from the Vincent Crowley Band. We'll be back with Vincent Crowley right after this track.
fear of dying, of that I was never afraid. I will see you all in hell. Isn't that where we all must go? Gazing at the iron door while time is slipping away. What's really driving me insane is what to do with my final hour. I am a killer. I'm gonna get what I deserve. I am a killer. They're gonna fry my each and every nerve. I've got less than an hour to kill. I'm looking back at the life I have lived. What a waste. What a mess. I should have never been born. I hear them coming down the hall. I know they're coming for me. I don't need that fucking priest. Oh, just get on with the show. I am a killer. I'm gonna get what I deserve. I am a killer. They're gonna fry my each and every nerve. Oh no! It's time.
And that was Killer from the Vincent Crowley Band. So yeah, and another thing with the Vincent Crowley Band, because, one of the things we're really going to talk about tonight is obviously the Rites of the Black Mass, because, Acheron's back and you guys just did a remaster, which actually the tracks from that anything from that Rites tonight we're playing off of the remaster. You guys do that. So with the Vincent Crowley Band, you've always said that you kind of left the satanic stuff for Acheron, and the Vincent Crowley Band was more for like, horror or real life death, especially more on the first album with the real life death. Now,
Right.
you personally, you used to write to Charles Manson and Ramirez and stuff?
Yeah, Charles Manson, he actually wrote me. I didn't write him. In fact, I remember going to my P.O. box and thinking someone was playing a joke on me. And then I saw all the fucking documentation they do when they approve it. And I wrote something. It was kind of like my own little personal manifesto for a magazine. And he actually got a hold of it to read. He kind of critiqued what I said, and which I still have that framed in my room, but it was entertaining, and Ramirez, I had a mutual friend that was in contact with him, and I wrote him, and my idea was I thought it would be cool to write a book from his viewpoint, because you always get everybody else's viewpoint. And, I obviously don't condone any of that shit. I don't I think he got what he deserved, and he should have been in prison. I mean, personally, he should have been put to death, really. But I started this communication, which started into a fucking odd friendship. And we started talking about all kinds of stuff. And he had some court things, so he couldn't really get deep into stuff. And he couldn't commit to doing a book, but he was into it maybe in the future. But we still kept in touch. And we touched base on a lot of fucking things, and things he could talk about, movies he liked, it was always like quite entertaining, because every letter ended with, "Hey man, if can you send me some Asian fucking bondage fucking magazines with some foot fetish stuff?" I'm like, "Dude, you're not getting it." It's not gonna happen. But
Yeah, he
yeah, yeah, it was an interesting experience. In fact, recently NBC contacted me and they were doing a special on Richard and they wanted, which is another scary thing, they got information about me writing him to the point of I sent Richard some stationery with his, name and shit. They knew all about this stuff that like me and him talked about. So, they must document all that stuff in the prisons. But they wanted me to go on the air and share my letters and stuff because I have quite a few letters from him with some artwork. And I was like, well, we could do that. And when I said, how much are you going to be paying me? They were like, oh, well, we don't pay. And I was like, well, first off, you're NBC. I already know you're a fucking news thing. So you're going to try to make me look like an ass. And no matter how much I fucking say what I say. So if you want to use my personal stuff, you're going to have to pay. And I did a couple interviews with some staff members and they just wouldn't agree to the number I asked. So I said, fuck it. That doesn't hurt me not to do a fucking TV
Yeah.
show. It's a bunch of bullshit anyway.
Speaking of that whole serial killer thing, we had actually on the show, we had Mike Deanna on here. We told his whole story, which anybody from Florida back in the day, we were all around this whole story with the whole boiled angel and the killings over in Florida. You did a collab with a t-shirt collab with Acheron and Mike.
Yes. We were like, freedom of speech to this day is a very important thing. And we were very supportive of his art. When a person can get put in jail for drawing something, that is fucking insane. So we kind of rallied behind him and we said, would you be interested in doing a shirt with us? Would be limited. We'll use your designs. And his style obviously is not typical
It's
Acheron.
definitely different. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like cartoonish. But we put out one, he had like Jesus on like a split roast getting barbecued
Yep.
with two demons, and then he had Jesus on the back rotting on the cross with some demons, and um, that was just to show our support and stuff for him, and say that you're not the only one that fucking is backing you right now.
Yeah, we had him on this show because we felt like it was important to have him on here actually, because I feel like so many people have or are too young to realize the whole Mike Deanna story, you know, and how crazy, it was what happened to him. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
dude was just making art and went to fucking jail for it. And it's basically his family was almost, I think they were pretty much run out of town for the most part. I mean,
Yeah,
we had Mike on for probably 2 hours. And I got to say, it was definitely different than what we usually do on here. Usually it's bands or maybe a horror actor, but I felt like the Mike Deanna story is something that kinda, through time, people forget, and it just goes to show you, like, how fucked up things were, and how they still are, but back then, this guy was put in jail for making a comic book. I mean, it's insane,
yeah. I
you
mean,
know?
I still can't believe that fucking happened in America.
Yeah, yeah,
That is absurd.
yeah, so
And
we were glad to have him on because it's a hell of a story. I mean,
is he still doing art?
yeah,
'Cause
yeah, he's
I
still doing
thought,
Boiled Angel stuff, I believe. He still does, I actually heard from him probably, like, 3 months ago. Um, you know, he there's actually a documentary, I don't know if you saw it, there's actually a whole doc on him, but it's really hard to find. They've pretty much, like which I think he was telling us, right, Ed, that they kind of tried to get rid of this documentary, everybody, so people don't see it, and it
Correct.
goes through his whole
That was the
case and
early woke,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. It,
Cancel
like,
culture.
totally went and, like but we had him on here for a couple hours. It was a very interesting episode, and, fini on the anthology of horror, finishing up on that, you guys it was Ryan on drums, right?
Mhm.
Art Taylor on guitar, Eric Stewart, and you guys also had bassist Tim Wilson. Now he left the band, right? And that's when you guys but before you had to go for the operation, that's when you guys had to start canceling stuff?
yeah, yeah, we the problem with the whole thing with the Vincent Crowley band is I thought since with my connections with different promoters and stuff, that it wouldn't be a big deal to get shows, but it has been nothing but a nightmare. I mean, we can't get shows fucking, and it's not, I just think it's because we're not a known band. And when I do approach people, it's always was back to Acheron, you
Yeah, I was
know,
gonna ask you that.
and there's been a couple times I've said, well, Acheron will play if Vincent Crowley Band can play too. And it's been a very hard uphill battle because we're on Hammerheart Records, but they didn't really push us. And you can't, a new band can't do nothing without some sort of push. And we're at that point right now where we still want to do stuff, but I also don't want to waste a lot of time. We're rehearsing all the time. We're not playing shows. We're not recording. So right now we're kind of like in a limbo. I still want to do stuff. It's just that we needed a little bit of a break because it's been a lot of hard work, but the getting back hasn't been that great.
And you guys did a video for the Amityville Horror. You guys did, a release show, right, at No Class for that record too. And is that was it so as you said, there wasn't many shows in support of that record because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we can't tour, so I was trying to get us on some festivals, and you know, unlike even though we have 2 albums out, that doesn't really matter now because you have bands that have a dozen albums out that are going to be way above you. So I still have hope. I still fucking plan on doing more stuff. It's just that we just need take a little break because we were rehearsing like all the fucking. I mean, that band we could play tomorrow. We haven't rehearsed in a couple months, and it would be fine because that's how much rehearsal we've done for all that stuff.
It's hard to separate the Acheron, right? And you start doing your channel, which I think you were doing earlier, but I
Yeah,
think it became more of a personal channel eventually. First of all, when did it become more of a personal channel where you actually sit and talk to people on it?
yeah. Well, I started doing the Vincent Crowley channel, just posting music stuff, and that's basically what the main purpose is for that. Uh, but then I started getting a lot of people writing and asking questions, and my wife told me, she goes, all these stories you tell me about stuff you've done or people you've played with, and you get these people asking questions. She goes, you ever think about doing a YouTube like Q&A, just answering some of these questions? And I said, I don't fucking want to get on a fucking video. It just seems weird to talk in front of fucking a camera by yourself. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you like doing that?
I absolutely hate it.
Yeah, same
It's
here.
so I did quite a few of them, and I put them up for a while. I've taken them down because I think they serve their purpose. They answer those questions. I'm not trying to get a bunch of hits and make money off of it. It was just a personal thing for the fans. And when I started to, I thought, well, I'll do some other stuff since I am. So I did some interviews. I did that. I had a show called What Gets You Goat. It was just a bunch of metalheads sitting around talking about what pisses them off, have a good time. And that's what I like. I like the playing off each other. I like, when I'm sitting in front of a camera answering questions, I just feel awkward. When I have a conversation with somebody, it feels natural. It doesn't feel forced. It just flows better. So I prefer that. So hopefully in the future, I'll get some new stuff. I'll still do updates by myself, but I'm not going to get into big elaborate videos like that. I think I'll try to do maybe some more interviews with bands. I got to do Nasty Ronnie, which was awesome,
I
and
saw that, yep.
you know
Mike was on there, Browning.
yeah, Browning got it. He was the first. Actually, he was the first person I did a full interview with, and it was just really good time, man. And when I can do it on that way on my terms where it doesn't feel like a job, I'm all down with it.
but that led you, so what, you had somebody's like, "Hey, man," but talking about old Acheron records, and this has you, and you hadn't heard some of this stuff for a long time, and you basically went back into the discography and started checking out some of the old songs, and then,
Yeah.
when you're writing music, this bleeds over.
Yeah, because it's like, when I got into did the whole Vincent Crowley thing, that style is totally different from Acheron, and it's more atmospheric. Acheron's a lot of emotion and stuff, and a lot of just getting aggression out. Even the slower stuff, there's a lot of hate and anger there, and um, they were, a lot of the fans just came out of the woodwork when I started doing those Q&As. And they're like, "Would you ever do it again?" I'm like, "Man, I'm past that. There's other bands doing it, the satanic thing," and I just kind of like wanted to move on. And I put some old Acheron albums on, and I was like, I hadn't listened to in years, and I was like, "Oh, it's kind of cool listening to this." And then I kind of picked up the bass and started fucking around, and then I started playing around with the guitar, and slowly riffs started coming out that had nothing to do with the Vincent Crowley Band, and I'm like going, "Oh, I'm going down this fucking rabbit hole." And then I thought to myself, well, go back to King Diamond. He left for Merciful Fate for King, and guess what he's doing two of? And I'm like, learn from the King and try to do them both. So that's what I'm doing. And man, when I got it back together, dude, the response was so fucking amazing. It was like overwhelming. And I was like, okay, guys, I'm still only doing limited shows, but I don't know how far it's going to go. And it just took off so much that uh, we do have a record deal, and we're going to do a new album. I can't mention the label yet because they're going to wait to announce it in the near future. It's a cool label. I'm not going to have a problem with fucking censorship or any of that shit. And
I
it's an
think,
underground label, but it's a big underground label. And yeah, we're looking forward to doing that.
what do you think, Ed? I'm thinking Hells, but I'm not gonna so we'll
I,
go to the next
I'm not saying
question
nothing.
here. It
Saying
seems
nothing.
to chime up to that. So piggybacking off of that, when you guys are doing the demos in 89, 90, and 91,
Mhm,
are you playing in front of, like, say when Acheron was at his highest before, the several breakups, before 2025, I'm talking.
mhm.
Are you playing in front of bigger crowds now when you go out with Acheron than you were ever playing with back in the day?
Oh, absolutely. Way bigger crowds. Yeah, in fact, that one that one show you saw with Diabolic was probably the biggest Acheron show we did in Tampa. We were used to playing the
97
Brass
Upstate.
Mug, and, you know, it wouldn't be, like, completely full. You get a bunch of people show up, but it wasn't, like, huge shows. And the Brass Mug and State Theater, depending if you got to play, like, we played the Obituary at the State Theater. When Masquerade was open, we did some shows there. Actually, we did one of our earliest shows with when George was still in Monstrosity, and we played with Eulogy. And yeah, it would have to be more smaller shows, back in the day.
You've done a couple shows with Death too, right?
Yeah, we did that with Nocturnus. It was like right before they were doing their Leprosy album. Um, yeah, I remember Chuck hanging out, and it's yeah, it was good times, man. It's weird, and that was at the Sunset Club. Again.
Yeah, and how was, your memories of Chuck, man? You saw him, like, obviously you interacted with him, and I'd heard you say in an interview that you actually used to run into him at the mall
Well,
frequently.
it was weird because when I first, uh, he was doing like, because I bump into him every once in a while, like in Tampa. Just usually was when I was with Ben, and actually, I think Ben took me to the studio when they were doing Leprosy at Morrisound, and I was still learning shit and what have you and stuff. And from there, when I moved to Pittsburgh, I saw Death several times because I saw him in Pittsburgh, I saw him in Detroit. So I'd bump into those guys at the shows. But when I moved back to Florida, I moved to Orlando, and I lived there for close to a year. and there's Altamont Mall, I believe it was. And I used to check out the bookstores, check out what the kind of occult books they had and stuff. And I passed an arcade and I seen like a bunch of kids around and dude with long hair. I kind of walked in, see what was going on, and it was Chuck. He was just playing some fucking video game and, chilling out. And he was like a really laid back guy. He was always cool when I talked to him. I couldn't say I knew him where, we knew each other fucking calling on the phone and shit. But although this is a funny thing, I did talk to Chuck once on the phone. And it was when Rick Ross left the band and Mike Browning goes, dude, call Chuck up. They need a guitar player. And I was like, well, what kind of guitars do they want, And I'm thinking Rick with his, his whammy and shit. I'm like, I can do that, if they want that. And I called Chuck up and I talked and he's like, oh, we got this new guy named James Murphy. And he's like, and I knew James Murphy. I was like going, yeah, they're going a different direction for that,
Another people storage guy, right, Ed?
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, all in all, it was cool because we actually covered Evil Dead on a Full Moon production compilation. And Michael Estes actually played it for Chuck because Michael was still living in Orlando. And Chuck was really cool and really liked the fucking cover and stuff. So yeah, I've never had bad experience with Chuck.
We're going to talk about obviously the Rites of the Black Mass, which was remastered, and as basically the first gift you guys pretty much give to the fans during the return of the band for the most part, besides the shows. Just one question about when you guys first in '88. Where are you, Jim, Dave, Mike, practicing at back before you moved to Florida? Because this is pre-Florida.
Yeah, well, we started off at Mike and Dave's mom worked at a moose club, and we practiced there a few times. And the veterans sitting around the bar were not definitely digging the fucking us playing Prayer of Hell fucking during their beer drinking days, So we would just basically go wherever we fucking could, And actually, Bill from Satanas, he's a bass player for Satanas. He was a lot younger, he was like the kid. And his parents had a basement, and he would let us fucking practice in his basement. We always like, the last show we did here was with them, and we're like, wow, it goes back so fucking far. We used to practice in your fucking, I think his grandmother's basement or something, So, yeah, the Pittsburgh days practice was it was not like the people storage days. You had to grab a practice in someone's garage or someone's basement and
laundry room,
rough.
wherever.
Yep.
Yeah, I think actually we saw Jim, Ed. Jim was at Swarmfest.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jim was there. He actually came up to our he actually bought a Generic Christ shirt, Ed. I do remember seeing Jim. And now it's to the recording of the Rites of the Black Mass. So first the demo, right? 91. You're still on guitar at this time.
Yeah.
Where did you record this demo? And also at this time period, the vocalist, Mike, gets arrested, right? And now you're in charge of the vocals. So first of all, how's the pressure on you for this? And on this demo, which are you cool with? Eventually I want to play one of the demo tracks on the remaster. Are you cool with that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure first. So basically you tried to follow his style at first on that demo.
Yeah, because when he left, I thought the band was done because you didn't have a ton of musicians in that area that were literally into our style. There's a lot of cool musicians, but we were playing a specific kind of style. And we kind of called it quits for a second. And me and Jim lived near each other and we were talking, and Dave, the bass player at the time, we were like, I'd like to keep doing this. And they were like, what about you doing vocals? You write the lyrics and stuff. And I said, I never fucking sang. I never, been a front man. I don't know how to fucking do that. And he goes, just try it. Worst is if it doesn't work out, we don't do it. And we tried it. And I tried to kind of mimic Mike's voice. And I was like, fuck yeah, because we already had the fucking Rites of the Black Mass written. So it was like almost like throwing a whole fucking album away, you know? So we go, okay, if we're going to do this, let's like demo this and fucking test out the waters. And that's when we did. And actually, Mike was actually out at the time. He was going through court stuff. He did some backups on the fucking demo, which were cool. But yeah, that was just a whole new experience. And then I I believe we only played like 2 shows where I actually sang, and it started to feel comfortable. Although playing guitar and singing, I wasn't feeling at all. And I wasn't the best guitarist. I mean, I came from the era where, you know, Millie and Kerry King were the fucking shit. And it was getting to the point where real trained guitarists were getting involved and stuff, and they were still keeping it killer and chaotic. But I was like, we'll see how far that goes. And, you know, thus we end up we all were going to move to Florida. That didn't happen. And I had to start revamping everything.
When you moved to Florida, obviously Jim couldn't go, right? But didn't Dave Smith go with you at first, and then one day you came home and he was gone?
Yep. Yeah, he stayed a few weeks, and, you know, we were having problems finding jobs in Orlando, finding a practice place. It was really sucking, and I basically came home and all his stuff was gone, and, you know, he called me and left me a message going, dude, I'm sorry. I can't do this. And I just think he didn't want the whole confrontation and stuff. But, you know, it all worked out good in the end, you know. That was a big move. And even though we were in Orlando, Florida was my old stomping ground. So it's not like I was all by myself there, you know.
Yeah, and you mentioned Florida because that demo had you were in Winter Park, right? Because that's where the
Yeah.
P.O. box you guys were getting for that demo was on that cover. The
Mm-hmm.
Coven of Darkness was the contact for you all back then?
Right.
Yeah.
And at that point, I tried to work with some people. I did work with a few people. I switched at that point. I transitioned over to bass, and I worked with a few people. We had a practice place, and the vibe wasn't there. The guitarist was really fucking weird as fuck, and I was like, man, I'm not gonna fucking deal with this shit, you know. So I met Pete Slate, and when I met Pete, we had a lot of the similar thing. He's a big Massacre fan. He actually played some shows with Cam, I believe, and he was actually that other band Incubus, not the Mike Browning Incubus, but the other one.
No.
He played a little bit with them. So
Equinox.
yeah, so we got together and we started working on material, and we started a band called Mythos.
Yep.
And then we got a drummer named Robert Ords that played drums. And I ended up, it's funny because at that point I played bass starting out, and then we got a bass player to do live. I just did vocals, and I think we only did like 1 show, and it was like at another kind of storage area. It was a big party and stuff. And but that didn't last long after the Acheron deal came in.
I'm gonna play Ave Satanas from the Acheron demo, though, the remaster of the demo, from Rites of the Black Mass, and you actually found the DAT tapes for this to be able
Yes,
to
I
make this
did.
product.
Yes, I did. It was very unexpected because I found so much shit I didn't know I had. And when I looked, and I was like, wow, this is a fucking demo. So I called Joe Veers from Sonic Lounge Studios. I go, dude, do you have a fucking DAT machine? And he goes, no, why? And I told him, he goes, I'll fucking get one. He goes, just get that shit here. And he found one, and you know, the album sounds a lot better, but the fucking demo
Sounds
sounds like
killer.
fucking, he really made that sound fucking good. Even though I'm not a fan of the demo, but it's like, you know, it definitely brought out the sound for sure.
I'm gonna play from the demo. I'm gonna play Ave Satanas from Rites of the Black Mass demo, and we'll be right back with Vincent Crowley after this track. So in this time period, you're doing Mythos. You guys have like what, 5 or 6 songs written, and you're contacted by the label Turbo out of Germany.
Yeah.
And you guys, they want to put out Acheron record.
Yeah, they said they said, "We heard your Rites of the Black Mass demo, really liked it. Um, we'd like to put it out as an album." And I said, "Well, it's a demo. I'm not going to put it out as a fucking album." And they said, "Well, how about this? We'll send you to More Sound. Just keep like the drums and the rhythm guitar and do your new stuff, do the leads, redo the vocals and stuff like that. And Scott can work with you with like getting a different sound than the demo."
Is that why
Now,
Robert Orr wasn't on the recording?
yeah, he was like on the European one. It's like funny on both those releases in the States and in Europe. There's two different drummers on the band photo,
Yeah, the band photos.
and none of them played on it. But so we went to this. Obviously, I heard more sound and knowing about that studio, it was almost like, wow, we made it. We're going to more sound. We're actually going to record there. And Scott had a name for himself at the time, and uh, we went there and did just that. And Scott fucking, he was great to work with. I got so pissed when there was like that anti Scott Burns shit because that
Yeah.
guy was all about metal and shit, and he really saved that fucking album.
Yeah, because he took, which is really cool. If you, I've read his book, obviously, and one of the reasons that the Rites of the Black Mass sounds different than other albums that were coming out of Morrisound at that time period was because he slowed down the tape.
Yes, we always have problems with people going, try to learn that song, but the tuning's a little fucking off, and it's like funny. You're like, yeah, there's a reason for that. it's and believe it or not, just slowing it down a little bit gave it such a different sound too. Than and not to mention he did some work to Jim's drums, and uh, that was like the first time I was by this time, I kind of got my feel for how I wanted to sound vocally. And I was starting the Mythos, I started doing the deeper vocals, and I was mixing them with the high vocals. And going into with Scott, he's obviously familiar with that. So it was like easier to work with him with that.
And in that book, he really gives you guys a compliment too, because he says that Rites is an album that he feels like out of all the stuff he worked on, it's actually an underlooked record. I don't know if you read that or not, but I thought that was really cool.
No, that was really cool. And one thing about Scott, he contacted because he told me, he goes, okay, he goes, Turbo Music has you booked, but they haven't paid anything. He goes, how's your contract? And I said, well, technically, we haven't fucking signed anything, yet. And so he called Monty Connor and he's like, maybe you guys should check these, Acheron out. I
Of
really like,
Roadrunner at that time.
yeah. And, Monty was like, I don't need any other satanic. I got Deicide, it was like kind of that kind of thing. But I thought it was just so cool that he actually stepped up and, did that for us. And even though we didn't get any interest with that, it meant a lot, for what he did. And that was a great experience working with him.
I thought what was really cool too is you guys are in Morrisound at this time period, so it's 92. So also in Morrisound at the same time is Nocturnus. And that's
Yes.
how Browning gets involved because they're doing the Thresholds record, right? The 92 Thresholds.
Mhm.
And you get Browning to come over and do backing vocals on the record.
Yes. And he actually did. On the song Curse of Nazarene, there's a middle part that has like a kind of a harmonizer demon voice. And that's Mike too. He did some backup vocals, and then he did the demon voice on that. And really, what are the fucking odds of Acheron and Nocturnus fucking being recording an album at the same fucking time? It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, well, you and Mike, you guys have that history because obviously he spends a couple years with Acheron eventually and stuff, and with the band and everything. But I thought that was really a cool story. And also one thing that was very important to you, which I have to say, like, I feel like now, and maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't. Back then, things felt much more authentic. Like they felt much more like you had your. I'm just gonna say, like, say you have your 8 satanic bands back when you were a kid. These
Mhm.
bands, you have your eye on them because it's not watered down, right? Because now there's like 5 million bands with
Right.
pentagrams, upside down crosses, blah blah blah. You know, and for you, that was a very important thing to have a very satanic, a very authentic record, and that
Yeah.
starts with the artwork, even right with Diabolus Rex, who was actually part of the Satanic Church.
Yes. I mean, down, when it comes down to like the core, not the other Acheron members weren't into Satanism like I was, but they weren't Christians and they weren't like against what we were doing. Or they weren't doing it just to be on the album too. So I figured as long as I am, and I'm working, I work with Peter Gilmore, who's, Church of Satan also. And it just seemed more authentic. And then, when you present the idea to Anton LaVey and he goes, oh, I give you my unholy blessings. I wish you the best of luck. What are you going to fucking do but just fucking try to like, knock it out of the park with something fucking that's going to hit someone in the face? And unfortunately, it took a long time for it to actually get, because when it first came out, there was so much stuff out. We were on a smaller label. We weren't getting pushed. So a lot of people overlooked it, but it's so funny because the people who did catch it, I still get emails to this fucking day going, I remember going to fucking Camelot Music and picking this up, or I remember going to here and fucking, and it's like so cool that fucking, finally we're kind of getting recognized for what it was. It wasn't just another, oh, I'm trying to shock you. I'm trying to fucking, just use these aesthetics to freak people out. No, it was like there was more to the formula.
And you mentioned the labels, right? JL sucked for you guys, and so did Turbo.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, JL did a horrible packaging deal with us, while Turbo put out vinyl that didn't have our intros on it. I mean, there was so much wrong with that fucking debut release. The other thing JL did is they got us in a lot of mainstream stores. So you would see an Acheron album in the mall or at your local fucking music store. That was really the only plus to that. But yeah, it was that whole ordeal was a nightmare.
You mentioned the intros. You had Peter Gilmore, obviously, who is now the high priest of Satan at the church and stuff like that. And when you did that, I did read now that made it like you said, that was the actual satanic mass going on. Um,
Yes.
so that was very important for you. I did hear so Scott Burns did say, even though which is great because he did appreciate he understood exactly what you were doing and understood that you were trying to be authentic. He did say though, right, it kind of killed the track the vibe between the tracks. Did you kinda even though did you kinda see what he was saying in a way or
I
disagree?
I absolutely understand because um it had to be done that way because what we were doing. But there was times when you listen to the album where you just want to hear the music, not just the whole thing and just to take the songs. So I understand the whole idea of that. And, you know, I even talked to Brian Kenyon, after we just did this, re-release. Um, I said, I understand what Scott meant. Maybe back in the day we should have had the songs repeat themselves by themselves, you know what I mean? So that someone could forward it. Cause I totally understand what he was saying. But again, that was an important part of it being authentic and the vibe had to be there.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of LaVey mentioned you in his book, didn't he?
Yeah, Satan Speaks.
Huh.
Yeah,
And
he considered, I think he mentioned Acheron, King Diamond, and the Electric Hellfire Club being like true satanic bands. And that was really cool, especially since I know, our type of music wasn't his style that he
yeah.
would listen to. But he knew that, in the early days of the Church of Satan, heavy metal was kind of looked down on. And I think with me getting involved with other musicians, we kind of let them know, it's not a bunch of just brain dead people fucking, trying to scare people with shit. There's some people out there that know the philosophy and are actually some even practicing it.
And people who don't realize, you actually never joined the Satanic Church, right? You were actually he put you in as an honorary member?
Yeah, I remember because we did the Bob Larson interview and he watched it and he told Peter Gilmore, he goes, I want to mail Vincent and the other, actually Vincent Breeding too, a package. And he sent us like the membership cards and stuff and says, made us a, official member and stuff like that. And, later on being a member, that's when I elevated to a priest and then a magister, before I left. So it was definitely an honor. Fucking, he was always behind. I never got to meet him personally, but the advice we got passed down and stuff was tremendous.
Yeah, and the reason you actually left the church was basically the time period, like, was it because of all the message boards I had read and you got tired of like it became kinda gimmicky, right? At one point, people are but you can actually go get a membership card online if you want to without even paying your dues and stuff like that.
Yeah, because a lot of the people was like saying like, yeah, I pay $100 for a membership, but you know, I looked at it this way: you still have to run an organization. It has to be, you know, bills have to be paid and stuff. No one wants the head of the church to be fucking, worrying about fucking the black house not being paid and shit. Like, you know what I mean? So there's a reason for this type of stuff. But then it started to get really money focused and people wanting to get into the priesthood because the Church of Satan originally was a think tank. It wasn't like something we had to all meet and praise Satan together and, do all this fucking shit. It was just a lot of like minded people, a lot of them fucking musicians, a lot of them actors, a lot of them artists. And we just kind of shared a common interest. Then it started to get into who's a what rank are you? How can I advance into? I never asked to be a priest. I never asked to be a magister. LeVay just sent me these, certificates and stuff. And to me, it was just kind of like appreciating the work I did. It wasn't like I'm better than this guy because he's not a fucking priest. And it got to be almost like when he passed, things changed so much. And it was like everybody was trying to grab the ring. And and when the internet came, it just became like a fucking club. And I just did not like that at all.
Rites of the Black Mass comes out in '92. From that record, I'm gonna play "Prayer of Hell," which you mentioned earlier on the remaster. Anything you could tell us about this track before I play this?
Well, that is obviously the Lord's Prayer in a blasphemous way. And that was one of the very first Acheron songs I actually ever wrote.
Nice. We're gonna play that now. This is Acheron with "Prayer of Hell" from Rites of the Black Mass. This is the remastered version from 2025. We'll be back with Vincent Crowley on the Tampa Morgue after this track.
Hallowed be thy name. The kingdom come, the will be done on earth as it is in hell. This is night, awake to do. Trespass, not a path of pain. Nothing to temptation. Leave us from false belief. For thine is the kingdom of power and glory forever. We shall praise your holy name. Satan shall emerge again.
"1992, Slade is out." He lived far away too from where you guys were jamming at, and plus he was not so much into the satanic thing.
Yeah, he like all of the mystical stuff, and he just, at that point he was not feeling comfortable. He felt kind of like out of place because Acheron just kept getting more extreme, especially when Mike Browning got back in the band. Because you put us two together, it's going to be a ride. And it just started to get more serious and even deeper into the fucking occult and trying to project that live. And the drive was like super long for him, and we understood. So Tony Black was in the band. We got Vincent Breeding in the band, and that lineup lasted a few years. And again, there's different eras of the band that's just so important and so different. And I love going back and just reminiscing like stuff like that.
That lineup, that time period, '92. I know local you guys were doing. You guys played the Ritz, right, with Deicide, Genitorturers, and Brutality. It's your guys' first time out of the US.
Believe it or not till I believe it was 97 when we played Mexico. Yeah, I mean, we had recorded, when we did the Lex Talionis album, Vincent Breeden and I, we did the vocals and the lead guitar over in Austria in Munich. at a studio there, but that's really the only time we left the country.
You guys did a tour with Obituary too, right? You guys did dates in 2012?
Yeah, we did Brazil with them, and that was really cool because it's those guys are just like the coolest fucking guys, you know. And we we hit up. I remember we are all talking about getting that Brazilian fucking buffet. Fucking they're so
Steakhouse.
good about it. We all fucking hit that, and great guys to hang out with. Awesome band live, and yeah, fucking well. Ed knows Terry's a fucking great guy. He's just, you know, the most down to earth fucking
Yep.
dude, you know.
Gentle giant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ed bought him we had him on here, what, Ed, last month? Yeah, Terry was on here. And for you, what was your impression of South America?
It was amazing. You have to remember too, Acheron didn't start doing out of the country shows besides like Mexico until the 2000s. We took a long time before we ever fucking left. And then we started doing all these like Venezuela and, you know, Chile and Peru and, you know, places like this. And it 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 blows your mind how much bigger you are in a different country than you would be fucking here, you know? You could play a small bar here and maybe get a decent amount of people, but you go over there, there's like people waiting
Warship.
outside for you.
Warship. It's a
Yeah.
warship.
Yep. It's fucking amazing. I mean, our first time in Mexico, um, we played this gymnasium. It was this big gymnasium. And we pulled up in the bus and there's like people around the building. And I was like, what's going on there? And they're like, it's your fucking show. I was like, what? I said, we're headlining. He goes, yeah, you're fucking headlining. And I was like, and then you see a crowd of fucking swarm of people and you're like, wow, what the fuck just happened, man? I did not experience this shit before, you know?
Do you have a favorite tour that you guys did?
Mm, not really, because they're all fucking really good. Well, we had a blast. You know, it's funny now because, you know, I over a decade ago, I pretty much quit partying and fucking, you know, try to get healthy and all that stuff. But some of those fucking earlier fucking, I remember going to Venezuela and, you know, just tearing it up on the fucking plane. There was like footage of like us tearing up seats, trying to find shit and stuff. I don't know how we didn't get arrested and just fucking partying with all these fans and shit. And every time we do a show, uh, I think it's better now because, you know, we're not partying necessarily now, but it's like we get to meet the fans and talk to them and fucking just get to know them more than just, you know, fucking raising hell the whole fucking time. So, uh, yeah, all these experiences are so fucking great.
What is the most oddest gift you've gotten on the road?
I've gotten goat heads. I've gotten fucking skulls, fucking inverted crosses, burnt Bibles. You mean so much weird shit. I've had, you know, people, someone actually made an Acheron fucking Christmas ornament. And it's, you know, fans are cool. It's just the stuff you get is like crazy. Um, Actually, that first Mexican show, the first thing, some guy hands me a nail. And I was like, why are you giving me a nail? And he goes, and he kept doing this. And I was like, what? And the guy translated, goes, he wants you to cut an upside down cross on his fucking arm. And I'm like going, am I going to be responsible? I ain't getting this guy fucking stitches if I do it. So, so I fucking cut his fucking arm and fucking bleed all over. That dude was like in fucking utter joy. And he fucking took the nail back and was like, mine. I'm like, okay, dude.
Now we're gonna talk about the return of Acheron, obviously, which is going on. But so before that, I do have to mention because the last record you guys did prior to the return, the Cult record, which I think is a fucking killer record. It's a pissed off record, in my opinion. You know, you listen to your discography. At this point, you guys had been around what 25 years. You had 5 years before the last release, which would have been the Conflict record, if I'm correct.
Right.
And it's you, Kyle, and Art. So you guys start demoing 2 songs, right? Satan Holds Dominion, and it's Fixation you're
Yeah,
demoing?
yeah, Hands of God, yeah. Um, we demoed that, and, at this point, we weren't even considering doing we had so how the Final Conflict, the album before that, we put a lot of time and stuff into it, and then, you know, as you all know, fucking with band shit, stuff boils up and you have issues, and we took some time off, and then me and Kyle got back, we had a little conversation, and we were like, why don't we just fucking play and not worry about getting another album deal and just fucking do some shows? And that's what we did. And we were having a blast, just playing shows and doing out of the country fucking stuff and stuff that we never really did before. And when we demoed those songs, Displeased was interested in doing it. And it kind of made us an offer, which sucked, but because they basically own the album. They don't just have rights to it, they own it. So anybody that would have to license it has to go through them forever. But we
Unless
didn't.
you re-record it, right?
Right. They just own that recording. But they got Dan Swano to mix and master it. And fuck, man, that's honestly, of all the albums, that's my proudest moment there. I really thought, I said, this is the album I've always wanted to fucking do, that musically and creatively. And unfortunately, Kyle ended up leaving we had a situation between us, and he left the band, and it just kind of fucking flopped down. And then when I did pick up the pieces again, I wasn't even thinking of doing an album anymore. I was like, I'm done. I'm just going to play shows. And that's what I did until, recently.
Well, you guys on that record, you guys had a handful of guests on there too. You guys had Ash Thomas, you had Cam Lee, Richter, Jim from Soulless, but you also had Jill from Funerus on there. She was, she does backups on what, Satan Holds Dominion?
Which one was, it's been so long, I don't know if it was that one or a different one. I don't think it was Satan. It was a different one. I'd have to go look, because especially with Infidel Reich, we've had guests on our shit there, and it's like to remember all the different songs that people did guests on. But it's really good, especially since Jill passed. Rest in peace. She was a great person and love her to death, and she was definitely one that I felt when she fucking passed, because she was always at shows. She was always supportive, and she's like a little sister. We would rib each other. She knew I was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, and fucking she liked the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we gave each other shit. In fact, I won a bet with her when Tampa went to the Super Bowl, and the first time, and she had to wear all Tampa Bay attire and take a picture of it. And I hope to find that fucking Polaroid one day soon, because she dreaded that one.
Yeah, Jill passed away August of this year, actually. I'm going to play Satan Holds Dominion from that record, and then we're just going to talk about the new stuff coming out from Acheron. And then, that'll be your second appearance on the Morgue. So this is Acheron with Satan Holds Dominion from the 2014 record that came out on Listenable Records. We'll be back with Vincent Crowley after this track.
Who could never be tamed? This world is ours, let me explain. You
and that was Acheron with Satan Holds Dominion.
Yeah.
Timo Juarez, you've been working with for a long time. Now we're talking about the new Acheron stuff. Obviously, Acheron's back. Will he be involved on the next record?
That I'm not sure because I still want him to do the Vincent Crowley stuff. But I almost think, especially now, we've been using this. I had our original logo redone, and then we never used it on an album, and we're going to use it on a new one. So it's almost like I want this whole thing to be completely fresh. So we probably won't use him on this album, but we'll definitely use him on the future Vincent Crowley stuff if we do albums.
It was a Florida guy, right, who did the original Acheron logo?
Yeah, his name was Alan Muse. I don't know if you knew him, Ed. Yeah, he played
He
in
worked at
Entity.
Aces, right?
No, that was Brian.
No, Alan worked at the old Aces at the
Did
flea
he?
market. At the flea market, yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. He sketched out like when I left Nocturnus, I said, "Man, I'm going to start a band. You make up a logo," and he drew one up for me and stuff. And uh, obviously, that was like done a long time ago. And I had another artist kind of fix a few things that were off on the original one, and kind of going full circle. And that's really appropriate too, if you think about it. Go from the first demo to this album, and we're kind of back to the beginning. And one thing I want to do, and I am doing, is I'm not looking to do check out this new Acheron stuff. I'm trying these new things and stuff like this. I'm going back and taking the best stuff of what I've done before with present stuff and incorporating it. And when I found the DAT tape for the demo, I found a half a dozen cassettes from 1990s with riffs I never fucking used. So I've been going through there and, finding stuff
Nice.
that, you know, has that spirit. And if it works, I'm trying to incorporate with some of the new stuff I am. And I think Acheron fans are this is definitely going to be a more aggressive Acheron album, but it's going to have that fucking same spirit like it did in, past.
Did you know when you wrapped it up the last time, was there like first of all, when was the final Acheron show before the final breakup? Was there a time where you're just like, "Hey, I'm getting tired of doing this. I need to fucking walk away"?
Yeah, well, we had a timeline because I wanted to pursue, the whole Vincent Crowley thing. I wasn't necessarily going to do. My idea was I wanted to take some time off, and under my name, I wanted to just do some shows and just do like maybe some songs I did, but I also wanted to do like a bunch of cover songs, like bands that influenced me, like Destruction and Sodom and shit like that. And I thought it'd be just fun for a little bit and take off of the business and just have fun playing, some solo shows.
Because Vincent Crowley is only supposed to be a live band at first.
Right, right. So we were supposed to do our last show at the end of 2018. Oh no, it was like at the beginning of 2019. And in Finland, that was gonna be our last show. So we did a pre-show in Columbus, and that was our last show because when we went to Finland, we got stuck in Chicago and our connecting flight was all fucked up, and yeah, that was a nightmare, and we didn't get to play the festival.
And when was so what is the official, like right now, I know, I think Cody's back in the band on drums. What is the official Acheron lineup?
It's Cody's on drums, Art Taylor's back on guitar, and then Eric Stewart is playing guitar also, who's also in Vincent Crowley. So, and Eric originally was supposed to join Acheron back in the day when Kyle first left the band. And some shit happened and that just never happened. And the band kind of broke up for a short time. And, I told him, I said, well, at least you're doing it now in the prime. you know?
And through the history of Acheron, you were pretty much the main writer, right? So, and I know because Vincent Crowley was more of a band. The Vincent Crowley Band was more of a band effort when writing the material. Now, with this new material you're writing, are you handling most of it, or is it more of a band effort from the other guys?
Well, one thing we discussed is, having 2 bands with the same guitar players, we don't want to sound like the same band. So, I'm gonna take most of the writing for the Acheron and let Eric and Art do most of the stuff for the VC stuff. Um, and of course, we all are part of layering it up and, adding because like I said, anything I write, it's nothing until everybody puts their input in it. Any album, those other players are so important. And the difference is too, is Eric and Art are attacking this Acheron stuff different than they would, with the Vincent Crowley stuff, it's more melodic, King Diamond type solos and stuff. And I told him, I said, you guys are shredders. You guys can get fucking sick. That's what we need for Acheron. So we're going to keep that separation now for the both bands.
And it will continue with the same philosophy, the same principles as Acheron's always had, right? That it'll basically be the satanic outlet for you.
Absolutely. Cody Johns, because we were using our drummer for Vincent Crowley, Ryan Arter for drums, but it got to be where it was starting to sound, and the whole thing was feeling like the same band, just different set lists. And Cody is an amazing drummer, but he fucking fits the whole Acheron thing, and he's an Acheron fan. So when we started doing the rehearsals with him, we were like, Ryan did a great job covering, but Cody was a part of Acheron and he knew what it was to be a part of Acheron. So he brought that fucking new energy back to the band. And he's younger, so it's he has that, testosterone fueled spirit and fucking we need as much in this band as possible and that energy we get with him is fucking phenomenal and I'm really looking forward to doing stuff with him.
How many songs do you guys have written so far?
Right now I have almost 6 complete. We only have 1 song down. When actually, as soon as I get back uh, in commission again, we're going to start working, demoing stuff and working on layering this songs up. We don't have any shows booked till the middle of next year, and we plan on going to studio hopefully in June. So we're taking all this time just to work on new material. So, and I'm very happy with what I'm coming up with, and I'm happy too that I'm at the point where you write something and you listen to a couple other songs you write and you're like, this one ain't gonna fly. We have to get rid of this, and because sometimes you get attached to a song and you really have to kind of like dissect what's gonna work and what's not.
The first thing, Acheron did the Rites of the Black Mass on Kenyon Records, fully remastered, new liner notes, the demo tapes, obviously, we played one of those earlier tonight. What double that shit sold out real fast for you guys too, right? Because you guys did double LP, tape,
Yeah,
double CD, and a picture disc.
yeah. What's to kind of Brian Kenyon, you talk about the Diabolic show. This is like where everything's connected. Brian worked at Aces Records. Brian also, I met Brian when he was fucking 16 years old at fucking Mike Browning's house. And I remember we were starting to learn some songs. And I remember this kid going, I think that there needs to be more double bass on this part. And I'm like, who the fuck's this kid telling me to fucking put double bass on a fucking part? And unfortunately, we did put more double bass, so he fucking likes to hold that over my fucking head to this day. And um, when he started working at Aces, he was very fucking proactive and he was a go-getter. And he started to do a couple shows. Well, he's the one that he had Hellfire Productions in the day, and he did a few shows, and one of them was the Acheron Alas Diabolic show, and did a really good job. And we maintained, I mean, like best friends for fucking a long fucking time. And he approached me. He goes, you know, I really want a fucking version of Rites that has everything on it. And he goes, would you ever, consider doing it again? And I said, dude, this album's been re-released several fucking times. It's been bootlegged.
I was gonna
It's
say some unofficials too.
Yeah, I said, if you go for the last fucking 20 years on eBay, there's so many bootleg shirts and fucking stuff with it. It's like, I don't want you to lose your ass on it. And he was like, listen, he goes, I don't give a fuck. I'm doing this for us, I'll give you the fucking release you want. And I said, he goes, what would you do if you could do it? I said, it's been remastered, but it hasn't been remastered the way I thought it should be. And I said, I'd like to make it more of a fucking dark aesthetic, like, have some visuals and stuff. So going from that, he goes, what about talking to Pete and fucking Jim about this release and getting them involved? I said, fuck yeah, man. It's like, I love those guys. So we all got on the same page, and, he came up with some stuff, getting, liner notes done, and us doing interviews and putting just stuff in the album that was like cool. And he goes, what do you think about doing the fucking demo as a bonus? And I said, well, yeah. I said, Full Moon's only done it, but they didn't have the DAT tape at that time,
Yeah, what you found.
And so he put this package together, and then he started going, what about shirts and picture disc and stuff? I'm like going, dude, you're going to bury yourself, man. I said, this is old fucking shit. I don't know how many people are going to give a fuck about it. And so he went on, he made, limited cassettes, limited picture discs, did the vinyl, double vinyl, did the t-shirts. And when we started the pre-order, it was only a few days later, he goes, well, you remember what you told me? He goes, yeah. I go, yeah. He goes, well, you sold out of the fucking picture disc. You sold out of the fucking this. And you said, the shirts are fucking going crazy. I'm like, what the fuck? I just didn't understand, And it took off to a point where he's going to put a different variant out of the album, so the collectors still have the original, the definitive edition, and making, hoodies and hats and all this shit. And it blows my mind how many fans came out of the fucking woodwork for this. I mean, I really wasn't expecting that. And I'm super appreciative to fucking, Brian for fucking, kicking me in the fucking ass, really.
I think I read somewhere the vinyl sold out in like 48 hours or something like that. It's crazy number.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
Europe was, because the postage and stuff, and there's so many fans in Europe that wanted it, and paid a lot of money to get it. And, he's working on doing stuff so we can get this out to, the fans. But again, it kind of made me realize what that album meant to a lot of fucking people that I took for granted for so many years, and just thought, oh, that's that first album I did. I did so much better later on, and you have to appreciate the stuff you've done in the past, because you wouldn't be where you are now without that.
Well, definitely, man. And I know you guys do Maryland Death Fest 2026. And also you guys are making an announcement on October 1st, which I mean, obviously you can't tell us what it is, but did I read you guys have some kind of special thing going on October 1?
Was that the label mentioning that?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's what's coming, new products that are coming and stuff that Brian has worked on for Kenyon Records. So yeah, we're not really announcing anything else, because we're playing Maryland Death Fest. We're playing Dead by Dog 2, Justin Horville's fest, and we're playing a festival in Spain.
It's your
And
first time in Spain too, right? That gig?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's funny, they want us to do a full tour because I guess there's a big Acheron following there, but I was like, one show, man. It's not We're not looking to do fucking, 2 weeks of shit. And we're supposed to hopefully be playing the Destroying Texas Fest too in Houston. So
Nice.
that's all we have booked. And I don't want to book anything else because this album, getting the new album out, is really the first priority right now.
Do you find it now in 2025? I mean, you look at Acheron's history, your history. I mean, you guys have already had, you've had a lot of lineup changes, but you guys have already had like 3 members pass away that have been involved with the band. You know, we all have at our, as we talked about in the beginning of the interview, this is the shit that we go through as we age and stuff like that. Do you find it hard do you ever lose the drive to keep on making records yet? Do you ever just wake up and be like, you know, man, maybe I just want to hang out with the wife and watch movies and chill? Does that ever happen to you?
Well, that of course, that's why I don't tour because especially when you get married. If you're married, it's hard. I don't know how these bands do it. They go on tour for long lengths of time because it's brutal on family, especially if you have kids and shit like that. I mean, I just not willing to do that. So I try to make time so it doesn't take away from that. Um, all I can say is I thought stepping away from Acheron that long was the best thing I could have done because when you put the fucking pot on the back burner on fucking medium, it's gonna boil and it's got to that fucking point and I'm fucking hungry and I'm angry and I'm fucking everything I need to be to fucking do this new album, which I'm not doing it just for a record label. I'm doing it because I need to do it, and who knows, this might be the last Acheron album. I don't know, and we're getting up there and I don't know how I'm going to feel to do another album. I'm only looking for what's happening right now. And I'm in the right headspace. I feel great. I'm working with some great fucking people. And that's all I care about right now.
Yeah, man. How would you, at the end of the day, how do you want Vincent Crowley to be remembered? You've been around long enough where I think that question is definitely can be asked.
It's someone that didn't take shit, and someone that didn't submit to fucking everything that was fucking, going on. I've made some good decisions. I've made a lot of shitty decisions. I've learned from everything. I continue to do the same. Um, I I never did anything that I didn't feel was right, and I spoke my mind. Sometimes you speak your mind and fucking it might not be a fucking supported thing, but I didn't give a fuck and I still don't. And as long as people know I never fucking was fake about shit and I was like, love this music. One thing I can use with fucking the word love is I fucking love this fucking music. And it's so much a part of me. And I don't think anybody is playing up to our ages. It's not a fucking trend. We're not 20 years old. We're not fucking,
We're
trying
not
to
going to grow
party
out of it.
or pick up girls and stuff like that. That shit is fucking not anything about what we're doing,
Exactly, man. Vincent, I mean, first of all, dude, second time on the show. Appreciate you, man. Was really bummed we didn't get to play with you in November last year. That was one of the high. I was really looking forward to catching up with you.
Well,
Great
I
band, Acheron.
we will eventually, and I am definitely 99.9% going to be at the Tampa Bay Metal Museum next year. So
We'll be there.
we will fucking have to hang out for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, you'll be easy to find me. I'm the small guy. You guys you're like gigantic, dude. You're like 6'2", right? It's crazy. Ed, anything you want to say to the man on the way out? You have a lot of history with Vincent, so I mean, I know you've heard a lot of this before, but
I do. I know he was very critical of me when I was doing Massacre, but that's the only thing I have against him. But I'm just kidding, man. I got one record in. That's all that matters. But no, man, he's had a.
Wait a minute. I said you did a great job. I said you just filling big shoes.
He just told you got a lot of fucking shoes to fill at first.
I've been filling shoes for a long fucking time, man. I'm still filling shoes. Right. But yeah, no, I've known this guy for a long time. I'm lucky to have seen him in the early days. I'm lucky I got to experience that time period in Tampa because, again, if you weren't there, if you didn't experience it, you can never, ever understand that type of music and how it really was. You can listen to it all day long, but until you were there and you experienced it firsthand when it was written and seeing freaking Pete Sandoval playing for 2 hours, 3 hours in a fucking closed shed in a sweat box. Because remember, I think we talked about it, during the opening, Tony, that we didn't have air conditioning. We were lucky because I had a job and we were a band that was touring and wasting money. So I remember either I got somebody donated one, but I put it in that little warehouse. We had that little 20 by 20 or whatever, and I built the stage out of the little milk crates. And but we sucked, but it was fucking the beginning. We all suck in the beginning, but we had air conditioning and we hung out there. That was our home. Like, I didn't go home. I went from work right there, was there till 10, 11 at night till that, the gates were locking,
Well, every once in a while we'd have the rats that would come every once in a while from the
The
fucking
rats.
because there was a hole in the fucking foam board that they used to enclose that shit. But
right?
you guys, Disincarnate, Eulogy, Jenna Torturers, Morbid Angel. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the bands that were out there. And it sucks that it's gone because, as me and Tony were talking about, since I've been playing in a band with Tony, we've had to, practice at Circle Studios in St. Pete because it's one of the only places that you can.
It's hard to get a storage unit now, man.
You can't even get a storage unit. So you got to go somewhere that has rooms that generally have equipment that you rent by the hour, and it gets fucking expensive really fast.
Do they still have that one studio? They used to have rehearsals places. It's like down Hillsborough Avenue. It was like near. Oh, is it?
Yeah. So there was Audio Lab that was behind.
That was because we practiced there with Cannibal Corpse, practiced there. Diabolic, Ed, you guys had to practice.
I was in there with Diabolic, and I was in there before that with Brutality. That's where Audio Lab had their new recording studio. It was right behind. Oh man, I always forget the name of that fucking music store. They were known for having PV stuff. It was right there at Hillsborough in Armenia.
One of our listeners will remember. We always do this, and they come back and tell us the answer to these questions.
Because I think Consolidated Music, but that was in fucking Mission Bell. But yeah, I mean, those days of finding a place to practice is gone. It's over. So we have to pay by the hour. And I remember we were paying what, $8 an hour. Then it
$40 for 2 hours. It wound up being.
Yeah, man, it's fucking gets expensive as hell, man. And and Morbid Angel has a room where we practice. Like, so when they go to tour, they have a dedicated room they use.
That's where we jam when they're on tour. Yeah.
So, it sucks, but the old days, you can't relive it. You can't go back to the.
That's why we do this show.
Yeah. The original Brass Mug, the Sunset Club, Rubies, Volley Club, Liars Club. What was the other one we talked about yesterday?
What was Neptunes.
Neptunes, and then the Stone Lounge. Yeah. I mean, these are places that came and went. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Brass Mug and the new Orpheum. I know you haven't probably seen the new Orpheum since it got put up, but it's literally 2 blocks from the Brass Mug.
Yeah, it's right by there.
It's literally the old Cowboy Saloon on Florida on Nebraska Avenue. So
is the Volley Club
gone?
Building still there?
Gone. No, it's there, but they turned it for forever. It was a newspaper where they did the Tampa Tribune. That became a distribution center. Yeah. So those places are all gone. There's not Rocket Club. All of them are toast.
Wow.
But we lived in a period where we got to see those places, and
yeah, for sure.
And these kids today, they could go to the Mug, the Orpheum.
Nothing lasts very long now, man. It's like even the Mug's on its 3rd mug. It's moved 3 times, Vincent. I don't know if you know that. 3 different locations it's been on now.
Last time we played with Nocturnus, but it wasn't the one that I was used to. It was like down. It was kind of
the second one.
Yeah. There's a 3rd one now?
Yeah, it's on Skipper Road.
Now. Yeah.
It's literally a couple, like you could walk, if you were practicing at the old people storage, it's right past those apartments. And it's like literally right before Bears Avenue. So yeah, it's like, it's right there. I mean, the parking lot's not super huge, but neither was the old one. So, when it packs, it packs.
Yeah, it's hard. You got to get there early.
Yeah, man. Same thing with the Orpheum. It's like, if you don't get there early, you're not parking.
Right.
That's what sucks.
Yeah. But that's one thing. When I do go visit family in Tampa, I go through the old stomping grounds, fucking.
Memory lane.
Last time I went to the storage place, it's called something else now. I can't remember what it's called, but it's weird to see shit change for sure.
It is the old little convenience store that used to be next door that you could walk right to and get some drinks and snacks, and even that
Right?
changed. So it's all, yeah, it sucks, man. But we lived it. That's all that matters is we
Yeah.
can say we lived that shit.
Absolutely.
Vincent, man, anybody wants to find anything Acheron or Vincent Crowley Band, anywhere you'd send them, you got like a band camp, right? Or just go to the labels.
Uh, just go to label, the Kenyan Records, USA.com. They're the ones that are, putting out the Rites of the Black Mass stuff. We have obviously Facebook and Instagram. Instagram, we're Acheron Cult. Or go to my YouTube channel, the Vincent Crowley channel. I try to post updates there all the time and, let people know what's going on. But again, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Fucking, it's always, as we talked earlier, I'm not a fan of making my own videos, and it's always great to fucking actually talk to somebody when you're doing these type of things. And conversation's always great with you guys.
Yeah, man, no major catastrophes today either, so we should probably continue that and not, keep on going because usually we got the Vincent Crowley curse, which we only had one of those today, which, you know,
Yes.
so it's went well, man, and Vincent, on the way out of here, we're gonna play first of all, again, dude, cannot thank you enough, man, can't wait to
Absolutely.
hopefully see you at the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal this year.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to the new Acheron. In my opinion, you guys have never put out a bad record.
Appreciate that.
And on the way out of here, I'm gonna play. We're gonna play an older track actually from a record, Rebirth. We're gonna play Church of One, and this whole thing became what you were on tour. It was you, Mike, and Richard Christie, and that kind of led to the recording of this record. Which is actually this song is also kind of a statement towards the Church of Satan in a way when you left.
Yeah, there was Dark Funeral. We did a Mexican run with them, and Richard, Lord Armand was like, asked me, he goes, because we were doing the Wolfen Society stuff together, and he goes, "Hey, would you get Acheron back together to do this run with us?" And I go, "Well, I can ask." I knew Michael would do it, and Michael asked Richard, and Richard obviously, that's probably the Iced Earth time. I don't know if he was doing Death or Iced Earth back then, but he was like free, and he's jumped on. We jumped on stage and we hadn't fucking played together since I was in Florida. It was like no rehearsals or anything, and it went fucking great. We had a really good time, and that definitely started the motion. And Kyle ended up playing drums in Acheron. And when I left the Church of Satan, this was like the first song I wrote for that album, and saying, I don't need a fucking church. It's all on me. Fuck it.
Man, and the cover art to that album, that was the three robes, is supposedly the band members, right?
Yes.
Symbolizes that. Man, again, Vincent, dude, we cannot thank you enough for coming on here, man. Appreciate you.
No problem, brother. Thanks for having me.
We're going to play Church of One from Acheron from the Rebirth album that came out in 2003 on Black Lotus Records. And me and Ed will be back after this. Vincent, looking forward to the new Acheron.
Show me the way. I need no priest or some temple.
And that was Acheron with Church of One from the Rebirth record that came out in 2003 on Black Lotus Records. Ed, Vincent Crowley, episode 108 in the books, and killer like we thought it would be, man. Almost 3 hours.
You know, we've talked about this many a times off the air that when we tell our wives that we're going to do a show, it'd probably be an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson. I don't tell my wife nothing. I say it's going to be an all-day event, and then if you see me early, be happy because
I
we
come
just
out,
don't
dude,
know.
everyone's sleeping at my house always. It's always I'm always like, "Yeah, it'll probably be like an hour, maybe 2." I come out, kids are in bed already because I'm on 7 hours ahead of you time-wise over here.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, and
wife's passed out on the
we
couch.
started at noon, right, or 12:15 by the time we
Yeah,
started
yeah.
rolling. So that's 7 o'clock your time, and the fact that you're done it after 10, is plus, not just
We do a lot of other shit for
the
the
show.
show
We
afterwards.
talk to, we talk to Vince after the
Yes.
show that you don't hear, which
And we find
again,
out
if
all the
we
stuff that he doesn't say, like, if anybody's wondering and you're like, "Oh, I wish you would mention this name and stuff." Oh, we find out this shit,
tell
but
you
we can't
what,
tell you guys. That's the way it goes.
Cash App, Venmo, I'll secretly message you whatever you want. Just send us some money and we'll take care of you.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it'd be
yeah,
great.
if we taped the end, and we've said this with Mantis, and I could probably think about at least 15 people that I can think of off the top of my head that when we stopped airing, kind of like you would hear on Howard Stern or even Bubba the Love Sponge, where, hey, dude, when we're not on the air, I'll tell you who it was.
Yeah.
And that's
We get all those details here.
we get all the details, so we know all the dirt. So again,
Oh,
it's
trustworthy. We've
Tampa
never said
Morgue,
anything. We don't
Tampa Morgue, a Cash App, and I'm just kidding. We don't have a Cash
I mean,
App.
look at
Don't say
Ed. I mean, let's be honest here. Anybody that thinks I haven't heard the new Monstrosity, you're crazy. I mean, it's like we do this shit. Now Ed's fucking, if we don't let anybody hear it, we don't let anybody tell. I mean, we all,
we all have secrets.
yeah,
That's
it's
all I'm
all
gonna
the
say.
honor system, man. And we've been doing the reason we could do this show and the reason we can have these guests is because we follow the honor system.
Correct.
We're not out there to stir up anything or to cause any trouble. We are here to talk about the history of bands and wherever that leads, it goes. We respect our guests.
And we
99%
also
of the
have a
guests
no
we have
filter
personal
policy.
relationship with usually, well, not, I would say 50, 60% that we've known for years, maybe. And we keep that. We would never, personally, I know me and Ed would never break that. So
No, and we have a no filter policy. You say it during the interview all the time, where say what you want, don't say what you don't
yeah,
want, and it's like we don't force people. We're not looking for dirt or for shit talking because, dude, we've been shit talked about for years.
yeah.
And you know what? At least we would be the guys that do it to your face. That's the one thing is I don't want this to be a thing where somebody's poking the finger at somebody else and they can't respond.
It's like
It's
if you're
not fair.
been in bands with people, anybody who's been in bands for a long time, and then you got this brotherhood, and then you see one of them being a little fucking weasel, in the background or something. It's like
Yeah,
it's the way it goes. Everybody's done it, everybody knows it. Um, when you're in bands for like 20 years or 15 years, it's like and you have multiple members, a rotating door. You're gonna deal with that shit. So anybody who knows
absolutely.
knows. But it's all about respect. And anybody who tells us anything they don't want us to say, we don't say it. It's cool
We'll
that they
cut it out. We've done
yeah,
it before where
yeah.
we've gotten a call after I already edited everything up and it was, can you
Can't
take that
believe I
out? And I
said
was
that. Can
like,
you pull that out?
motherfucker.
We take it out, like,
Yep. Because we're
weird.
not, unless it's already aired. Once it's
Yeah.
up, it's up.
Once it's up, it's up.
I
You're
mean,
fucked, man.
we can't fucking stop the train at that point.
Yeah, I
But
mean, we try to do this show a way that anybody can listen to this show. As we always say, me and Ed, we let people speak freely. We don't voice our opinions. We try to make this the most non-political thing because you have enough of that bullshit every fucking
yeah,
day
I
being
want
pushed
no
in your
politics.
faces. Yeah, like, for me, I have no political. I'm not loyal to anybody at all. So it's like me and Ed talked before the show, say we will never try to have that bleed over. Now, if someone brings it up that's on the show, there's nothing we can do.
Right.
That's just because we don't censor people. But so
We
we
go
try
by
to keep that a
the
free space.
we go by the old George Carlin thing. I don't believe a fucking thing the government tells me.
Yeah,
I don't
everybody's
believe the
lying
fucking
and
thing the government tells me.
yeah.
So that's always been my motto is if somebody says it, until I see it in front of me, like happening or whatever it is, I don't believe anything that's said until it happens. And that's
It's the way to
You
look
know,
at it, man.
it's how you have to look at it. It's
As
not
I think I said
political.
during the interview, Ed, I don't care who's in the White House, whether it be Big Bird. You go to that door, knock on that door, and try to be friends, your fucking ass is getting carted off. Don't matter. They don't give
You're
a shit
fucking
about you, me.
your shoulders are gonna be jacked up from being fucking removed so
Yeah.
quick.
Unless you're
Yeah.
some millionaire or something that
Yeah.
benefits something to that
Yep.
deal with
That's
the cause, you ain't getting no love.
nope.
So that's why we keep this as free as we can, and we also let people speak when they want and say what they want.
Absolutely. And
That's
again,
our
the whole idea behind this was
an
for
escape.
people to go 20 years, 30 years in the future and be able to go back and listen to this. And if you want to know something about Vincent Crowley or King Fowley or fucking Dave Austin or any of these people we've had on, the 107 other guests we've had on, you could go learn something about even me and you and our history. You know,
Shit that'll be
anything.
forgotten, for some of these guys through the
You know,
years. You can find it here.
this is the forever liner notes of records for the people we have on. This is when we were kids and we tried to figure out who these people were and what they liked and not what was on their pizza. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
real deal about these people. Like for years, I was like, man, I wonder what Tom Araya was like. And then you
Yeah.
start hearing interviews of him talking and you see it and you're like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? But if those didn't exist, you wouldn't know what he
We're
was
not
except
influencers. I always say this too. We're not
no, don't
personalities.
get
We're
me
not
started with
looking
that.
to like the same guy. Me and Ed are the exact same people you would talk to at the Brass Mug or anywhere. You're not getting anything here. We're not where, there's just, I just say that the best way to put it is we are just two dudes who sign on and do this. We make no money. We spend money to do this. Eventually, hopefully, it would be nice to make a few bucks, but we don't make shit. We just don't ask. We just do it. We sign on and do this. And the same guys you hear here, if you see us at the Tampa Bay Metal Museum in February, we're going to be the same guys that you there as here.
Yep.
Because we are just two dudes who,
No egos.
no
Zero.
egos. Yeah.
We've been doing this. I've been in
no
so many
gimmicks.
fucking bands and played all over the world. And you know what it means? Nothing.
We're all going to the Pine Box, as you know from this show. So we're all trying to stay ahead of the game, and
Trying to live our best lives, man. That's all I'm
Yeah.
trying to do is, I get to the fact that I've got to see places that most people will never see. I'm happy. You know what I mean? I can I didn't miss my kids growing up. I got to play music. I got to do some cool shit. I get to do
Plus,
this
this show
show.
takes you away, Ed, from all of us, from the reality that when we all sign off of here, when you people disconnect or you stop listening to the show and you pull up your social media or you put on your TVs here, you're not going to get any of that shit usually.
Nope.
Like we are not, it's because it's fucking, who needs any more of it? And
Nope.
speaking of that, Ed,
Fact base.
I say we get the fuck out of here.
Yep. This was a long fucking episode.
Yep.
Enjoy
As
it.
we knew it would be. As we knew
Yep.
it would be.
Thank you, Vincent, again for coming on, man. You're a fucking awesome dude.
Yeah, we'll bring you back when the new
amazing.
album. I mean, of course, fucking the new album's out. We'll be hopefully hanging out with you at the Tampa Bay Metal Museum.
It'll be 5 hours next time. We'll do another 5-hour show.
Oh yeah, definitely. But,
Can't run out of shit to talk to with that dude.
No. I mean, that's the thing is, I really feel like, you listen to the first interview, which was totally different, obviously. You listen to this one, we cover all new shit, and it's just, again, Vincent's talk about a walking history board. There you go.
Big time.
Yeah, Ed, give him the spiel.
Yep. Spotify, Apple, anywhere podcasts are, YouTube, audio only. Sorry. That's going to be the way it is until we get younger, which is not going to happen. The TampaMorgue@gmail.com for email correspondence. Check out the Instagram. It's always popping. Tony's on top of that shit. And the dead book. I mean, Facebook, we do have one, but it's useless. So, yeah, man. And I personally thank everybody for listening. It's amazing how many people we talk to that listen. And it's such an honor, man. Seriously, because we were just two jabronis that were just doing this because our wives hate us and told us to go fucking in another room and do something instead of walking around on our phones. So, which we still do, but we get to do this too. So didn't change shit. You lose. Haha.
Yeah, definitely.
But don't listen to this, Gina.
Yeah, so everybody, we appreciate you. Like Ed said, next week we got Black Venom of Flame from Finland. Week after that, we got Mangus from Norway's Aberration. And until then, enjoy the Vincent Crowley episode. Thanks everybody who listened, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
See ya.
This is King Fowley from Deceased, and you just listened to another episode of the Tampa Morgue. Tune in next week and stay fucking dead.